Hey guys! Part 16 of What If Naruto Unlocked His True Potential. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 64, Treason Against Tsunagakure. Sleep did not come back for the Konoha shinobi at the Kazekage's mansion after Kankuro's arrest. Tension filled each room in the aftermath. Gaara and Temari had left immediately after to begin their own investigation. The Konoha shinobi had remained there attempting to sleep, but it became obvious after the first 2 hours that it was not coming. Fully dressed and prepared for the day, Naruto, his genin team, Lee, and Tenten were all standing in a circle at the entrance of the mansion, discussing what exactly happened. "That's a bunch of bullshit," Katsumi hissed. Hanabi winced slightly at her word choice, but did not stop her swearing. She agreed with her teammate, after all. "I know we didn't know Kankuro for too long, but he definitely did not seem like the type of guy who would commit treason. His brother's the Kazekage, for fuck's sake." "Kankuro-san is not the type," Lee spoke up, frowning. "While I do not pretend to have known him well, I do know he has a genuine love for his village, just as we all love Konoha. So, the allegations are crap," Naruto stated as he crossed his arms. "So either everything about this is a bunch of bull, or someone else is framing him for their crime." "But what type of crime occurred, though?" Hanabi asked. That was the unknown question. The group had heard the charges, but not the specifics behind what had happened. They were ignorant and, therefore, could not do anything. "So, where do we go from here, Naruto-sensei?" Kanji asked. Everyone turned their attention towards him. "Our mission is done. We can technically go home now, but—" His voice started to drag on. They all knew what he was asking. Should Team 9 return back to Konoha or get involved? "Well, Lee and I have to stay here," Tenten noted. "We have a mission to complete at the academy. And honestly, we probably won't be able to do much other than that during the days." "Yeah, I think that's what you two should focus on." Naruto nodded his head in understanding. "Hokage-sama and Gaara really want the academy thing to go through and improve the relations. It's important that you two still keep up with that." "We shall," Lee replied. "And you, Naruto-kun?" The Uzumaki sighed. A part of him felt moderately anxious. He did not know what was going on in Suna, and he was not certain if this was something he should be concerned about. He did not know if staying in Suna would be dangerous for his students. Returning back to Konoha did make sense. However, he knew Kankuro was in trouble. While he trusted that both Gaara and Temari would uncover the truth and get his brother out of serious trouble, he did not like the idea of just leaving him in his situation and just hoping that his siblings would be able to bail him out. If there was anything he could possibly do to help with the situation, he would want to do it. If it were up to him, Naruto would stay. However, he had his team to take into consideration. Therefore, it was only fair that he honored their wishes. "Hanabi, Katsumi, Kanji, what do you three want to do?" the Jonin questioned. "I want to help Kankuro," Katsumi said quickly. Kanji nodded his head in agreement. "You yourself said we might stay a day or two to just see what Suna was like. Why change that just because of this? Besides, we could maybe help," Hanabi added. "We should try and help Kankuro-san with these accusations." A large smile developed on Naruto's face. He looked at his students with pride in his eyes as he nodded his head, giving the group a thumbs up. "Then it's official. Let's help out Gaara and Kankuro," the Jonin stated. Kabuto smirked as he looked down at the corpse on the ground. It was the body of a young woman with green hair that was tied in a bun with 2 orange tips framing her face. She was dressed in a white robe that covered her body. Her skin tone was pure white. The silver-haired shinobi pulled out a scroll and opened it. He placed the open end of the scroll on the woman's body. As he began to run through a series of hand signs, the door to the room he was in opened up as Yura entered. "Is everything finished, Kabuto-sama?" he questioned. Kabuto said nothing for a few seconds as he finished his hand signs. A cloud of smoke appeared around the body before quickly dissipating, revealing the corpse of the woman to be missing, sealed inside the scroll. The former right hand to Orochimaru smirked as he walked over and picked up the scroll. "How long has it been since Pakura has been dead?" he asked. "I must say, your village has done an incredible job preserving her body. To be completely honest, looking at her corpse, I almost don't believe she died in battle. Pakura was a hero to Sunagakure, one of the finest. Of course the village would do its job to make sure her body is preserved and kept clean after death. Yura replied. His eyes narrowed on Kabuto, a scowl developing on his face. You are done now, correct? I am. Kabuto nodded his head. There are a few things that I must still do with in regards to D.N. Samples I have taken, but I am done with everything that required me to be here. Good. The Suna Jonin's eyes narrowed onto the scroll. You are not going to keep that one, correct? You returned all the other bodies you've taken. The previous bodies were all just parts of some experiments I've been doing. Of course I'd return it. This one, however, I think I might just keep. He proceeded to smirk as he pocketed the scroll. It'll be a gift to Sasori-sama for allowing me to have your assistance. Yura's scowl turned into a smirk of his own. He nodded, accepting that response, before walking forward towards Kabuto. We should start planning your escape. Mukade and I have already pinned the blame on the Kazekage's brother, and have caused enough of a stir in the village. Tonight, it should be easy for you to slip away, he stated. Excellent. Kabuto chuckled. I'm honestly impressed that you two decided to accuse him. This should make the politics in this village quite interesting for a little while. It shall. While he will probably be acquitted shortly, the chaos will be enough for you to slip away. Yura chuckled as well. To be honest, we almost thought of accusing the Konoha shinobi that just arrived in the village, but we opted not to. We already were committed to Kankuro and we couldn't steer from that option. Oh? Konoha shinobi are in the village? Who? Kabuto asked. The Suna Jonin nodded his head. 2 Chunin and a Genin team under the command of Uzumaki Naruto. Kabuto's eyes widened slightly for a split second. His face then developed into a grin as he adjusted his glasses for a second. Naruto, huh? Haven't heard that name in a while. His Jonin-sensei had a hand in killing my old master, he noted. Perhaps I should pay him a visit about that before heading out. Gaara sat alone in the Kazekage's office and rubbed his hands against his head, trying to ease his developing headache. Due to years of being at Jinchuriki and working to prevent Shikaku from gaining control of his mind, he had developed little need to ever sleep and could function well at peak levels of exhaustion. Right now, however, he wished he could rest for a little while, for the current situation with Kankuro was particularly annoying to him. A knock on the door caused him to turn his attention towards it. After giving permission to the person to come in, the door opened up. Naruto and his Genin team walked in. How are you doing, Gaara? Naruto asked. What's the situation? The situation is frustrating and I have made little progress so far, Gaara said, shaking his head. The specific situation is that bodies have been disappearing from tombs throughout Sunagakure. Bodies? Hanabi frowned. Is that where the grave robbing accusation came from? The Kazekage nodded his head. Important bodies. For periods of time, the bodies of the Shodai Nidame and Yandame Kazekage would disappear and reappear from their tombs with slight modifications. As did the body of Manzaman Chikamatsu, the founder of Suna's puppet-style ninjutsu. Most recently, the body of Pakura, a legendary warrior shinobi of Suna with a unique Kekkai Genkai, was discovered missing. And how does this relate back to Kankuro? Katsumi asked. They think he's the guy who is responsible? Gaara nodded his head, frowning. D.N. Samples were found in Kankuro's personal workshop in Suna's puppeteer core building. While most were small samples of D.N. that were only just sampled and confirmed, the more damning piece discovered was the full right hand discovered hidden in his workshop. Yandame Kazekage? Naruto questioned, frowning. Gaara nodded his head. My general inclination is that this evidence was all planted there, but I am struggling to obtain evidence. Was anything discovered missing yesterday? Kanji questioned. We had first ran into Kankuro upon entering Suna as he came back from visiting a nearby village for meat. Could we maybe talk to the person he bought from, confirm that he was there at that time, and if it coincides with the disappearance of one of the bodies, would that confirm an alibi that would show he has no involvement? Based off what Kankuro has said, there was a body that went missing when he left for that village. As such, I sent someone to that village to speak with the merchant and confirm that alibi. For now, I'm just waiting, Gaara said. I have a meeting with the council in 2 hours. I am just trying to rationalize more arguments that I can make to them. Would it help if we showed up to the meeting as well? Or at least if I did? Naruto asked. Konoha's presence serving as a backup could be useful. I would appreciate that, and I believe, at the very least, you could come to the meeting, Naruto. However, I am not certain you will be able to sway the council. They are adamant about my brother's guilt, and seem to be convinced that I am someone who would twist logic and evidence to defend him of his crimes. Gaara said. Would I be able to attend maybe? Kanji asked. As a Yamanaka, perhaps my testimony could hold some merit. I could enter Kankuro's head, for example, and provide answers based off my own perusing of his mind that he had no knowledge of this. I had thought of that, actually. Gaara mentioned as he brought his right hand to his chin. I think testimony of yours could have some merit, but I do feel as if the council could reject it with the logic of Konoha trying to interfere and assist me, as both the Hokage and I are currently in talks of improving our village's relationship. It will be useful, but I am aware of the counterargument. That's stupid, though. Katsumi frowned, crossing her arms. If Kanji has the ability to enter someone's mind and can confirm that he had no involvement, then that should be enough evidence. In theory, it is enough. But I understand the concern if they think we are biased. Kanji shrugged. Whatever, if you want though, I can confirm that the memories don't exist in his head and that can supplement what other evidence you could find. Gaara nodded his head in agreement. That would be helpful to have. At the very least, I can feel more confident in my assertions that Kankuro has nothing to do with this. The Kazekage then stood up and started to walk. I'll take you all to where my brother is being held. The Konoha shinobi nodded their heads in agreement, and proceeded to follow the Kazekage out of the room. Mind transfer jutsu. Gaara and the Konoha shinobi wasted no time upon arrival at the holding cell where Kankuro was located at. Upon arrival, Kankuro submitted himself to Kanji's jutsu and allowed the Yamanaka to start prodding his mind for information. The remaining shinobi waited patiently as the search continued. Roughly 7 minutes passed by before Kanji's body became activate again. Sorry about that. Just wanted to double-check every area I could in his mind, Kanji said to everyone as he proceeded to shake his head. But I looked everywhere and I couldn't find any memories related to the missing bodies. I don't believe there's anything whatsoever to suggest he is responsible. Damn right I'm not, Kankuro stated sharply, crossing his arms. We just need some other type of evidence to show its merit. Hanabi mumbled. Kazekage-sama. The group turned around to see a Sunigakure shinobi rushing in. Naruto recognized the man as the guy who had intercepted them upon entering the village, Mukade, if he recalled his name. I couldn't find you in your office, so I assumed you were over here. Mukade. Gaara greeted the man. The Suna Jonin looked around the room for a brief moment, eyes focusing on the Konoha shinobi, before speaking. Kazekage-sama, do you mind if we speak in private? I have information dash. If it is information regarding my brother's arrest, you can speak it freely here, Gaara declared, crossing his arms. The Konoha shinobi here are assisting me in my own investigation, and my brother deserves the right to hear information regarding his own arrest. Mukade nodded his head in understanding. Very well then. I have received news from the shinobi you sent out to speak to the meat vendor that your brother claimed to have purchased from. I see. Gaara crossed his arms. And what did the vendor say? Mukade frowned in response. He said nothing. The man your brother claimed to have met with is dead. What? Kankuro shouted, nearly blanking at the man. You've got to be pulling my leg! How can he be dash? As you reported earlier, it was a man named Kyo, from Saba village, correct? Mukade questioned. The puppeteer nodded his head. As said earlier, he was found dead at his home this morning. That's... Kankuro shook his head. I feel like I'm going to be sick. Naruto shook his head as well, scowling deeply as his hands tightened into fists. Obviously, the vendor was killed because he could prove Kankuro was out of the village during one of those grave robberies. They killed an innocent man that literally did nothing but sell food. Whoever is responsible for all of this is absolutely fucked up. He growled. Gaara remained silent for a moment. He closed his eyes as he processed the information. Mukade, I sent Satetsu to investigate. Why did he report to you instead of me first? The Kazekage questioned. Forgive me, Kazekage-sama, but I am not at liberty to discuss that with you. Mukade answered, frowning. Pardon? Gaara opened his eyes, glaring slightly at the man in front of him. Elaborate. I have discussed the matter with the council, and they have requested me not to say to you. Mukade answered. Gaara's eyes closed again. A scowl developed on his lips as he crossed his arms. Gaara, you're not going to take that, are you? Katsumi asked, frowning. You're the Kazekage. You are his commanding officer. You should be able to order the information out of him. It's not that simple, Katsumi. Naruto spoke up, frowning. The council is doing all of this investigation because they do not trust Gaara, for whatever reason. Gaara needs to play slightly by their rules, otherwise he validates their concerns that he might overstep the words of other people. Overstep? It's the council that is overstepping. Gaara is the Kazekage. The civilian-born Kunoichi shouted. Yes, but only for a short time and in a village that hasn't had a central leader figure for long. Hanabi added, frowning as well. Gaara-sama is not in a place where it benefits him politically to against them too much, or else he will appear like someone asserting authority. The fact that this happened to Kankuro and that Gaara just became Kazekage is so bad, Gaara really can't do anything without it coming across like he's potentially obstructing justice. Naruto's frown deepened as he looked at his fellow Jinchuriki. This is the politics related to being a Kage. It's got to be the worst part of the job. Make no mistake, I could force you tell me the information, Mukade, and it is within my authority and right to do so, Gaara stated sharply. However, I will play by the council's game for now. If they genuinely are concerned about me this information in the moment, then I'll ease their concerns. The Kazekage's eyes shot open and they proceeded to glare at the man in front of him. However, I will remember this later. The Suna Jonin immediately started to shiver and bowed his head. Please forgive me. Still, it's weird that the council would put in a request like this. I don't care what happened, this is still shady stuff. Katsumi spoke up. That you're a guy that came to the Kazekage's mansion last night was part of it, right? He seemed suspicious to me. Oh? The Kazekage turned his head to her. What makes you think that? Just based off how he talked to you, speaking with authority and without any care of intruding in your mansion at night, and seemed to just be a really disrespectful guy. He seemed like a real jackass, she replied. You can't simply accuse someone for such trivial reasons, Mukade shouted, glaring at the Konoha genin. His fear of the Kazekage's warning seemed to fade and he was now staring with pure anger at the girl. I think you're being disrespectful right now. Could I accuse you of the grave robbing? No. So don't spread false accusations like that with no evidence. The brown-haired girl gasped slightly and took a second back. Naruto immediately put a hand on her shoulder and smiled at her. A second passed before she took a deep breath and calmed down. The Uzumaki then turned his attention towards the Suna Jonin, glaring at the man. Mukade, right? I understand that Katsumi may not have had the best reasoning right then, but I want to inform you something. She did nothing to warrant that level of killing intent. So do not do something like that to one of my students ever again. The Konoha Jonin hissed. You got that? Another cold spell immediately rushed over Mukade's body after Naruto's words. His knees started to feel weak and it took all of his strength to remain standing. He nodded his head in understanding, mumbling of course under his breath, before turning away. Naruto seemed to accept the response and turned his attention to Gaara. So, where should we move on from there then? We should probably check the burial grounds that your brother supposedly stole from, right? He asked. That would make the most logical sense. Gaara nodded his head. Let's not waste any more time then. The group nodded their head and, after bidding farewell to Kankuro and Mukade, they began to leave the room. Gaara led the group, followed by Naruto and his team. The Uzumaki's eyes glanced back and noticed that Katsumi was walking at a slower pace than the rest of the group. Naruto closed his eyes for a second before opening them and slowing down his pace, allowing Hanabi and Kanji to pass him. He then walked side by side with his third student. Doing all right? He asked her. She looked up to him and quickly nodded her head. Yeah? I'm fine. Sure about that? The blonde asked, eyes narrowing in a knowing fashion. You seem a little preoccupied. Well, it wouldn't happen to do with that Suna Jonin jackass, would it? Naruto interrupted. Katsumi frowned. She brought her hands together and took in a deep breath before nodding his head. Does killing intent really feel like that? She questioned. I know you've released some at us before during training, but it didn't feel like that. That was overwhelming. Because that felt like legit killing intent. I'm not particularly good at faking killing intent. I need to be in the right mindset for it. What he did though, there was definitely malice behind it. Naruto admitted with a sigh. However, that's all that it was. He did not do anything and could not do anything. I know, but... Katsumi shook her head. Is that how all fights are like? Do we have to deal with that every time we battle another shinobi? To be honest, if the shinobi you are battling is in direct opposition to you, yes. Naruto nodded his head. He then smiled and placed his hand on her shoulder again. However, and I know this will sound weird, but you will get used to it. It's just a matter of learning how to handle it. As you get stronger, you'll be able to counter it with your own killing intent, or better yet, your own actions. I'm not sure about that. She mumbled. That was really overwhelming. Because he is a jonin, and you're a brand new genin. Give it time. Once you get stronger, you'll be able to stand your ground to it. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki informed her, smiling. So don't let that jackass bother you. You've already come a long way from when I first picked you all up from the academy, and you're only going to get stronger. After all, you said that you're going to become Hokage someday, right? The brown-haired Kunoichi nodded her head. She looked up to Naruto and finally a smile developed on her lips, one that was progressively becoming more and more confident. You're right. Katsumi stated. Thanks, Naruto-sensei. With that confidence, the girl started to walk faster. Within a few seconds, she caught up to her teammates in the middle of the pack. Naruto chuckled to himself as he walked closer to the back, keeping his eyes on his students. I'm sure they'll become great shinobi. I know so, he noted. The smile on his lips started to fade, however, as he glanced back. The group had now made just enough progress that they were away from the cell entirely. Naruto's eyes narrowed in the direction, however, as if it was still in plain sight. Mukade. I don't know why my student making a general statement like that would upset you. If Yura wasn't suspicious, he'd show himself not to be suspicious. But now, I think there might be something there to consider. Both of you now seem pretty suspicious to me. The Jinchuriki pondered to himself as the group headed towards their next destination. Thank you all for coming. Please come in, Masakato greeted. Hinata bowed her head, greeting the elder Uzumaki as she entered the large open sitting room in the Uzumaki compound. Both her father and her cousin entered the room after her. The three proceeded to kneel in front of a table as Masakato set down 3 teacups. I figured we could have something to drink while we discuss this, Masakato noted. It is much appreciated, Hayashi replied, bowing as he took a sip of his own tea. Hinata grabbed her cup of tea, but did not immediately take a sip. She proceeded to look around the large room for a brief second before shaking her head with a sigh. Room feels empty without Naruto, doesn't it? Masakato questioned with a laugh. Hinata looked up to the red-haired man, who started to laugh. Try looking around the rest of the compound. In general, only 4 Uzumaki live here at the moment, and since Tayuya is always out on missions, when Naruto is actually gone from here, it is noticeable. It's a hell of a lot more quiet. I'm aware. Hinata nodded her head as she finally took a sip of her own tea. She smiled after taking her sip. Your tea tastes amazing, Masakato-san. Of course it does. You should come over here more often. The door's always open, even if Naruto's on missions, the Sandaime Yuzukage stated. He then looked at her cousin, his eyes narrowing. He took in his appearance, the long, brown hair, the white eyes standard for Hyuga clan members, the white kimono shirt with a gray apron over it, before nodding his head. I assume you are Hyuga Niji, correct? That is correct. It is a pleasure to finally meet you, Masakato-san. Niji bowed his head. Pleasure's all mine, Masakato stated. He then reached into his jacket and pulled out 2 scrolls. Please keep drinking your tea. I just figured I must just get the conversation started. The 3 Hyuga shinobi nodded their heads. Masakato rolled out the scroll and revealed the layout of a seal. There was a lot of small writing and general notes around the center, writings that Hinata could not help to understand, even if she focused on trying to read them. At the center of the scroll, however, was a large symbol that seemingly depicted an eyeball that was closed shut and completely encased in a ball of fire. So, Hayashi, as we have discussed before, this is the general scroll that I have for the new seal. It will accomplish what the main branch's seal does and will seal the Byakugan once anyone with the seal dies. This will help keep the bloodline safe from enemies who would seek to steal the bloodline for themselves, Masakato noted. However, the main difference is that this seal targets specifically the eyes and has no connection to the brain. No matter how hard anyone could try, not a single person would be able to use this seal to physically harm one with it. Good. Hayashi nodded his head. I assume the seal works? I haven't tested it out, obviously, but I'm 100% positive it does. The formula does not lie, Masakato answered as he gestured the scroll forward towards the Hyuga clan head. You can take a gander if you want to check my work. I am not nearly as well versed on Fuinjutsu as you are. I will trust your work. Hayashi nodded his head. However, what about the other scroll? Yes. Masakato nodded his head as he rolled up his first scroll. He then moved the second scroll forward, but did not yet unroll it. As I mentioned earlier, my new seal for your clan targets the eye and does not target both the eyes and brain, unlike your family's previous seal. The brain element, however, makes it difficult to apply something to people already afflicted with your original seal. Removing a seal or applying a seal on top of a seal is difficult as it is. Doing so to a seal on the brain is even more so, since slight tampering to the seal could cause damage to the brain and potentially kill the person afflicted. Hinata's eyes moved over to her cousin. Niji seemingly had no reaction to Elder Uzumaki's words, only taking a sip from his own teacup. I wonder if Niji and Ai-san is worried at all about this. Hinata thought to herself as she took a sip of her own teacup. We are aware of those difficulties, Hayashi noted. Do you have a solution, however? Tentatively. Masakato nodded his head as he unrolled the scroll. Depicted on the scroll were similar notes, scattered throughout the page that Hinata was not fully able to understand. In the center was the curse seal of the Hyuga clan. Surrounding the X in the center was a ball of fire. The fire connected the edges of the X perfectly, blending it into the new design. So, this is the working design for the additions. As you can see, it involves directly sealing onto the original seal, Masakato noted. I feel confident that this is the correct seal and will do its job overriding the secondary brain-damaging effects of the original seal, but I am not 100% certain and I'm not going to fully know until I actually practice with it. By practice with it, Niji started to speak up, setting his teacup down. Do you mean dash? Yes, I need to actually apply it to someone's seal, Masakato stated. I'm confident in my formulas in Fuinjutsu, but I am aware that directly working on top of a seal that had already been applied to an organ as sensitive as the brain is a very difficult task. I've been studying this specific topic for over 2 years now, and I believe that I have done all the research I can. I just need to attempt placing the seal. And you are positive this will work? Hayashi questioned. Masakato nodded. This one, I will admit, I'm not as certain as the brand new seal. However, I do feel confident in this one overall. And I assume you are bringing this up because you wanted to ask me to be marked with your seal? Niji asked. Masakato nodded his head. I asked Hayashi-san to come over and bring over Hinata and one branch family member with the original clan seal that he felt he trusted would be able to overcome anything. By that token, he chose you. Niji and Hinata turned to face the Hyuga clan leader. Hayashi turned his attention towards his daughter and his nephew before he nodded his head in agreement with the Uzumaki. Masakato was going to brief me on the subject of the seals here, but based off his request, I felt like he had a seal that may be ready to put on with maybe some risk. He admitted. His eyes zeroed in on Niji and a small smile developed on his lips. Niji, you are truly Hisashi's son. I see so much of him in you. You have grown so strong and I believe you have the inner strength to overcome any hardships. As a result, I felt you would approach risks associated with a new seal with complete confidence. The choice is up to you whether or not you wish to accept this seal right now, but as Hisashi's son, I wanted to offer you the new seal first. Niji remained silent for a few moments. He looked at his uncle in disbelief at the words of praise. For the briefest of moments, his vision of uncle started to blur, and he saw the image of Hayashi's twin brother, his own father, Hisashi. Father. Niji shook his head for a moment. You would have killed for such an opportunity. I do not care what risks there may be. Hayashi-sama and Masakato-san believe this will work, and it will mark the first stroke in completely destroying the divide between the main and branch families. With that thought in mind, Niji undid his forehead protector and revealed his own curse seal on his forehead. He brought his hands together and bowed towards the Sandame Uzukage. Masakato-san, whenever you are ready, I am ready, he stated. The Uzumaki nodded his head. It will be a long process. I'm giving you the scroll for the new to look at and study. You will come by tomorrow and we will begin. The process of reapplying a new seal delicately to not do any damage to your own brain will most likely take the entire day. Is that acceptable? Very, Niji stated simply. With those words and upon making final arrangements, the Hyuga shinobi took the scroll for the new seal, the one to be applied to the existing branch family members, and thanked Masakato for his time and work. They then started to walk off towards their own compound. Niji and I-san. Hinata said her cousin's name. Niji turned to look at her. This will be the beginning of our dream. The beginning. Niji nodded his head. You will have to receive the other seal yourself, as well. That went without saying. Although she was not necessarily addressed during the meeting, Hinata knew that was why she had been invited. She would be receiving the new seal that would be applied to all Hyuga clan members from here on. Together, she and Niji would serve as the perfect models for the next generation of their clan. I cannot wait! Hinata exclaimed. Niji smiled in response. He gave no verbal reply, simply nodding his head in agreement. As they both had noted, this was only the beginning. They would not only appear as the perfect models for the next generation, they were going to have to prove it to the Hyuga clan elders. Getting marked with seals was going to be the easy part. After all this time, though, I can finally see an end. I see a point that I can actually work to. Hinata noted to herself as she tightened her hands into fists, looking forward in determination. And I'm not going to waste it. I'll make sure it ends up happening. The three Hyuga walked back to their compound, filled with confidence and excitement for the future. Nearly 2 hours had passed since Gaara, Naruto, and the genin of Team 9 had left Kankuro's cell. The Kazekage had led them to the burial grounds and to his brother's personal workshop where the DNA samples were discovered. Their investigation, however, proved fruitless as they did not discover anything that had been previously unknown. The tomb of the Great's burial grounds were still heavily guarded, and it seemed as if someone should not have been able to enter the area unless they had clearance that Kankuro had. It also hurt that the guards had admitted that they had seen the puppeteer enter the burial grounds one night to pay respect to his father, which added credence that he was the one responsible overall. Kankuro's private workshop did not help the investigation either. Medical shinobi had already examined the room and marked containers that they had studied and contained traces of DNA of the various shinobi that Kankuro had allegedly stolen. More damning, though, was the hand of the Yondaime Kazekage and the father of Gaara, Kankuro, and Temari. It had apparently been hidden in a scroll within a trapdoor in the room, and still was hidden amongst hundreds of scrolls on various puppet-related ninjutsu. They had discovered evidence, but none of it was positive. Gaara, Naruto, and Naruto's genin were now sitting in the Kazekage's office, trying to think of what to make of their investigation. What do we even do now? Katsumi asked. Nothing looks good. It all looks as if he did it. I mean, at some point we may have to accept we read into this wrong. Kanji admitted, shrugging his shoulders. If everything points to one direction, we have to accept it at some point. But Kankuro-sen does not seem like the type of person, Hanabi quickly stated. He would never go behind his village's back and do any of this. You even confirmed that when you went looking into his mind. True, but I have to accept that I might have not done a good enough job of looking into his mind. Besides, he's a jonin and I'm a genin. If he really wanted to try and keep a secret from me, even when I'm peeking into his mind, he would be able to. Kanji said, frowning. You can't just have blind faith, otherwise you'll only be setting yourself up for disappointment. What are you thinking, Gaara? Naruto spoke up over his students. Gaara was quiet at his desk, his hands folded on top each other. His eyes were closed shut, as if he were in deep thought. I do not believe Kankuro is the type to do this, but I would have accepted him as a culprit if evidence suggested otherwise. I'm not naive enough to believe being family and being a loyal shinobi is enough to exempt him from crimes. Gaara answered. However, the thing that concerns me is the evidence. It is almost too perfect. Too perfect? Kanji looked towards the Godaime Kazekage. How so? We as shinobi are trained in the art of deception. What better way to deceive than with faulty evidence? He answered. The Ichibi Jinchuriki's eyes opened. Guards who can confirm that he was seen, evidence of the DNA samples so easily found, it almost feels too much. If Kankuro had been as careful to avoid detection for this long, why is it all just bubbling out now like this and in such great fashion? True. Naruto nodded his head. It also seems suspicious that the vendor Kankuro claims to have met was found dead. They can argue Kankuro was involved with his death, but it seems really fishy that a man who could confirm an alibi for him was just found dead. The Kazekage nodded his head. More so than that, I distinctly remember that the last missing body reported was one of our finest shinobi, Pakura. Her body still hasn't been returned to the tombs, so it is obviously not missing. They found DNA samples of hers in his workshop, so why did they not find her body as well? Wait, so her body is still gone? Hanabi spoke up, her eyes widened. Then wouldn't that be enough to prove his innocence? It couldn't possibly be him, because they didn't find her body. Not enough evidence. I'm certain the council will just claim that they haven't uncovered it yet. Gaara said. It's concerning, though, that they haven't found it. That's dubious to me. A knock on the door caused conversation to stop. The door opened and Temari entered the room, followed by Lee and Tenten. Hey. Naruto waved at the group. Did the academy stuff go? Quite. Lee spoke up, his voice brimming with excitement. The academy students are filled with the passion of youth. They will be an absolute joy to work with. We did cut today's session short, though. Tenten noted, her eyes focusing on Gaara. Due to stuff related to your brother. Gaara, it's almost time for the meeting with the council, isn't it? Temari asked. The Kazekage nodded his head. Do you have a plan for how to approach this? I'm going to try and be as neutral as possible. Gaara admitted, crossing his arms. They didn't report this to me because they felt I might have a bias towards Kankuro. I need to approach this tactfully so that way I can make them realize that I am trustworthy. That still just seems so weird to me. Katsumi spoke up, frowning. You're the Kazekage, the leader of the village. Going behind your back like this sounds so much like insubordination. In theory it seems like it is, but Suna is a bit different than other villages. Namely because we went almost 3 years without having a person ascend to the title of Kazekage. Gaara stated. As a result, the council has a bit more authority than most other villages' shinobi councils. Especially since I have not been Kazekage for long. It's a power balance issue right now. Now that I have authority, I should be taking back my power, but the council is now naturally suspicious of someone like me, who just became leader, and are now looking at every action I make intently. He then proceeded to shake his head. I don't mind, as I understand they are looking out for the village's best interest and making sure that I'm not going to undermine it for my own gain. However, it does not mean I appreciate this in the slightest. It puts me in a precarious situation. So, you're going to have be seen as neutral as possible so it doesn't look like you're pardoning your brother because he's your brother? Naruto summarized. His fellow Jinchuriki nodded his head. Well, if it's cool with you, I can speak as freely as I want and be the advocate you need. I am aware, and I appreciate that a lot, Naruto. The Godame Kazekage smiled slightly in the direction of the Kyubi Jinchuriki. As am I, you know? Temari spoke up, crossing her arms over her chest. I didn't end that academy session early to just come and stand and watch this meeting. I'll be arguing like hell for our brother, Gaara. Kankuro-san has everyone's support, Lee stated confidently. I'm sure he will be able to prove him innocent to anyone in the council that is suspicious. A smile developed on Gaara's lips, one much larger than had been seen before. The redhead nodded his head, accepting the words of his sister and the other Konoha shinobi. With this support, I assume we will be able to argue appropriately. Kankuro will be proven innocent, the Kazekage noted. His hand then tightened slightly and the smile dropped. And the traitor responsible for this experimentation will be caught and sentenced appropriately. 30 minutes had passed. Gaara proceeded to lead his sister and the Konoha shinobi through the large administration building of Suna towards the council room. Upon arrival, Gaara opened the door and led the group into the room. The council room was a large, open room surrounded by 4 statues depicting the 4 previous Kazekage. Other than the statues, however, the room was rather plain with dull brown, red, and gray colors on the floor and walls. In the center of the room was a large round table made of light brown sandstone. There were 13 chairs along the table and 12 of which were occupied by men and women dressed in the same garbs, light brown robes that covered their whole body and a white face guard. In front of the base of the Yondaime Kazekage was a single chair. Kankuro was sitting in, and was seemingly chained down to it. He had a large scowl on his face as he glared at the council, but his eyes seemed to soften as they focused on his family and the Konoha shinobi. Hey, you're all here! Kankuro called out. The 12 people at the round table turned around to face the new arrivals and to the few. A few of them nodded their heads in acknowledgement of the Kazekage and his sister, while a few others zeroed in on the Konoha shinobi and glared at them. Godame-sama, if you mind me asking, why are there Konoha shinobi following you? One of the counselors, a slightly older-looking man with black hair that was just starting to gray, asked. Tujuro, These Konoha shinobi volunteered to assist in my investigation into the grave robbing. As a result, I want them to be able to speak of what they witnessed and speak on behalf of that investigation. Gaara answered as he walked forward towards the 13th, empty chair at the round table. You relied on Konoha shinobi for this investigation? Another counselor, an elderly woman with lavender-colored hair that was put into a bun, noted, frowning. You are the Kazekage. You should not have to rely on the help of another village such as Konoha to conduct your own investigation. Chiyoba-sama, I didn't need their assistance. I only welcomed it. Gaara replied. He crossed his arms slightly. Under normal circumstances, I would have asked the council for assistance with such an investigation, but since the council already saw fit to investigate without my knowledge or opinion on the matter, I see no wrongdoing on my part. Godame-sama, please forgive us for that. The first counselor, Tajuro, spoke again. However, you cannot blame us for being suspicious due to your relationship with Kankuro. If Kankuro is guilty, then he will be found guilty and I will willingly employ any punishment his way. However, that is if he is guilty. The Kazekage finally took his seat and proceeded to stare intently at each member of the council. His eyes narrowed. I do not approve of you all going behind my back in this way and making assumptions that I would hide a crime that he committed. As such, I trust you will allow this concession and approve of any testimony that the Konoha shinobi can give based off their investigation. The council remained silent for a moment. Many of them looked down, not meeting the hard gaze of the Ichibi Jinchuriki. I understand your anger, Godame-sama. Chiyo proceeded to speak up. However, they are still Konoha. Let it go, sis. The counselor to her right spoke up. The counselor was an elder man that had very thick white eyebrows and had his hair completely covered in white bandages atop his head, underneath his face guard. Godame-sama is speaking the truth. He is also the law of this village and has the right to grant permission like this. Just let this pass. Thank you for your understanding, Ebizoja-sama. Gaara nodded his head in approval. Well, if the Konoha shinobi have any pressing evidence to give one way or the other, I would personally like to hear it. Another counselor, Yura, spoke up. What was the fruit of your investigation like? You are the ones who began this investigation in the first place without discussing it with me. Gaara said as he crossed his arms. It would be better if the council begin revealing evidence first. Surely you all know the evidence by now. Tajuro noted, laughing in disbelief. Kankuro was discovered with DNA samples of the deceased shinobi he grave robbed and experimented on, including the arm of the Yondaime Kazekage, his own father, hidden deep within his workshop. Where did the initial suspicions come from? The Naruto questioned, frowning. Because you all kept Gaara in the dark like this, you must have suspected Kankuro early. Why? The initial suspicion developed because of the likelihood of a puppeteer shinobi being involved. Ebizo spoke up, frowning. Bodies disappearing like that, we suspected someone was following in Sasori's footsteps. Sasori? Katsumi spoke up, frowning. Akasuna no Sasori, Suna's most infamous missing shinobi. Temari answered, frowning. The most infamous puppeteer shinobi. He is known as the first practitioner of creating human puppets made from the corpses of other humans that still maintain the individual abilities of the person when they were alive. It's a disgusting practice. And as Sasori's grandmother, I resent that he followed such a path. It is my deepest shame. Chiyo commented, shaking her head. Nevertheless, it is an idea that one day, a puppeteer could follow in his footsteps. So when bodies started disappearing of high-profile shinobi, the exact ideal candidates for human puppets, it became clear that a puppeteer would be the biggest suspect. And since Kankuro is one of the best rising stars of Suna's puppeteer shinobi, he made a prime suspect. It would make sense for him to move on to that step at some point based off his own personal development. But that is presumptuous. Temari shouted. Kankuro is the son of the Yondaime Kazekage and one of the most patriotic people towards Suna itself. And isn't one of Konoha's most infamous missing shinobi the rising star of the Uchiha clan, who ended up slaughtering his entire clan? Yura countered, frowning. You can never predict a person's true motives, no matter how ideal they seem on the surface. Kankuro's family and his patriotism do nothing to defend him from suspicion. But you said he was trying to create human puppets, yes? Hanabi spoke up, her hand going to her chin. If that were the case, then why would he return the corpses after some experimentation? Wouldn't he have kept them? That's a good point. Naruto glanced over at his student and smiled. just as perceptive and smart as your sister, Hanabi. While that is true, we can assume that he was just doing some basic experimentation. That is all. Tajiro countered, frowning. We can confirm that he had some interest, since the Yandame Kazekage's arm was missing and found in his room. Need I also remind the council that one of the bodies was not found at all? Yura added. The Honorable Pakura's body was never found. As her body contains the fabled scorch-release Kekii Genkai, it makes sense that she would be an ideal candidate for a human puppet. Kankuro must have chosen her after experimenting with other corpses and figuring out how to approach the subject. Bullshit! Kankuro hissed. He tried to get out of the chair, but the chains holding him down were too much. After struggling for a few minutes, he finally relented to his confines again and settled on glaring at Yura. I would never dream of doing something like that, especially to someone who died for our village like her. Might I also add that her body was never found when we investigated Kankuro's workshop? And you all didn't find it either. Naruto noted. I don't think that should be used as set-in-stone evidence. We simply haven't discovered that body yet. We'll find it eventually. Tajiro replied dismissively. Once we do find it, we'll see it probably with some modifications to turn it into a puppet. Make no mistake, we will have proof soon. You don't know if you will, though. Katsumi spoke up. You're expecting to find it at some point with just the right evidence? That's a bunch of dash. In any case, you do realize that Kankuro had an alibi the night Pakura's body was stolen? Temari spoke up. Please remind me when the body was first noticed missing? 7 in the morning. Yura announced. Nothing about Kankuro's alibi grants him full exoneration, however. How so? Temari asked. We believe that the body must have been stolen sometime after 2 in the morning. That was the last time one of the guards peeked into the tomb and noticed no disturbances in the area. Yura continued as he brought his right hand to his chin. Kankuro was reported to have been seen leaving your mansion, Godame-sama, at 4. He was consistent with his reason why. Gaara stated, crossing his arms. He was going to Saba village to buy steak and spices for dinner. Which, by the way, when my squad arrived in Suna, we came in at the same time as Kankuro, who had the steak he went out to buy. Naruto added. We can confirm his location when your team arrived and that he did, indeed, have steak. However, we cannot confirm that he did go to Saba village. There is nothing to prove that he did. Ebizo noted. He claimed to have a witness, the shopkeeper he claimed to have met, but that ended up being a false lead, since the man he claimed to have met is dead. Which I find suspect. Temari stated, crossing her arms. Isn't that convenient, huh? The man who could confirm Kankuro's alibi is mysteriously dead? You could also interpret it the other way around. The person who could prove his alibi was a lie is dead. Tajiro added. This is going nowhere. Chio spoke up, rolling her eyes. This topic is going nowhere, as both sides can argue their part. There is no evidence to suggest either the vendor Kankuro died because he could prove or deny the alibi. One cannot be proven over the other. Actually, I believe we can prove that the vendor died because he could prove Kankuro was lying about his alibi. Yura commented. There is testimony that backs it up, the testimony of the shinobi who reported the death to us. On cue with his words, the door to the council room opened up. Mukade proceeded to walk in. He bowed his head in respect to everyone in attendance before walking forward, closer to the round table. Honorable Council, Godame-sama, visiting Konoha shinobi. He greeted. I reject Mukade's testimony. I ordered Satetsu to investigate Saba village and to meet with the vendor and, as such, would prefer his testimony. Gaara stated. However, I understand that there is apparently some information the council was concerned about me having related to this. Please understand that we temporarily hid information because it was most distressing to us and leads to a pretense of a cover-up. Tajiro said, frowning. Satetsu, indeed, was the man who reported this information. However, some time before returning to the village, the man had been attacked. What? Temari nearly gasped. What happened? Satetsu-san was limping by the time he returned to the village and was incredibly wounded. He had many injuries on his back and looked as if he was struggling to maintain consciousness. Mukade answered, frowning. As the shinobi on guard duty to the village, I approached him and he informed me of his testimony and told me to share the information with the council and the Kazekage. The Jonin's face then steeled itself as he looked at Gaara. He then fell unconscious. Fearing the worst, I brought him to the hospital to get his wounds attended. Afterwards I then went first to the council and, from there, was ordered to keep quiet about this. And why specifically? Gaara questioned, his eyes narrowing angrily. I am the Kazekage, and a shinobi I had just sent on a mission was attacked. Godame-sama, you must thus understand it from our point of view, Yura said, frowning. Satetsu-san would also be able to confirm that the vendor had died and maybe was done to cover up Kankuro's lie. Before he can give the information, though, he gets attacked along the way. It is highly likely that someone was sent on Kankuro's behalf to silence the vendor. It is highly likely that this same person also attempted to do the same to Satetsu-san. While we acknowledge that it might be paranoia, it is best to be safe and assume that you could have been the person to order the hit. As such, we wanted to keep you in the dark of Satetsu-san's condition, lest you did not know he survived and would go to finish the job yourself. Another counselor spoke up. The sheer level of distrust for me is disgusting, Gaara stated. Make no mistakes, I will not forget this in the slightest when this trial is over. For what it's worth, the entire council was not in agreement over this. My brother and I, for example, Chio commented, frowning. This is why we compromised with the rest of the council and still ordered McCade to report the information of the vendor's death to you. I appreciate that and will remember that as well, Chiyoba-sama. However, I am still furious at the amount of overstepping this council has done, the Kazekage stated. We can discuss any overstepping may have done once we prove whether or not your brother committed treason and is responsible for the grave robbing, Yura stated with a sigh. Bah! You mortals waste too much time on meaningless chatter. A voice boomed in Naruto's head. The blonde's eyes widened. Kurama? Despite developing a relationship of sort that maybe resembled friendship, or more likely, acquaintanceship, the Kyuubi no Kitsune and Naruto did not speak too frequently. The fox was not a horribly talkative creature, and kept to himself mostly. He mostly only spoke whenever directly spoken to. It usually meant something whenever he was the one to initiate conversation. Humans have always been obsessed with this political crap. It's hilarious how much you place in words. It'd be much simpler to just wipe out this council and assert Shikaku's container's word as the rule of the law, Kurama stated. It doesn't work that way. Doing that could cause people to fear Gaara and could potentially motivate someone to try and rebel and potentially divide the village, Naruto explained. Again, you mortals waste too much time on this, the Biju snarled. For what it's worth, though, you should ask the Jonin who spoke earlier about his guy that was attacked. Why? Naruto questioned. The focus needs to be on Kankuro dash. I know where the focus needs to be. If you want this shit to end and potentially prove your friend innocent, you need to focus on what's suspicious. And that vague account he gave seemed interesting, to say the very least, Kurama replied. Naruto was silent for a moment as he processed the fox's words. I understand, Kurama, but I don't really see what that means. McCade's an ass, but I don't get how this has anything to do with him. Immediately, the Uzumaki's thoughts changed direction as realization dawned on him. His eyes then turned to McCade and they narrowed on him. McCade, what was this Satetsu guy's injuries like again? Naruto asked. Be specific. McCade frowned in response, but nodded his head. He had multiple wounds on his back and his jacket was covered with blood. It looked like stab wounds. He was also limping, so he might have had injuries to his leg. He looked like he was on the verge of collapse. I'm not fully certain on specifics though. And how long did he stay conscious? Naruto asked again. I'd say a minute or so after he got to my position, just enough time to tell me the relevant information. The Suna Jonin replied. Naruto's eyes narrowed further. I find it weird then. Because based off your descriptions of his injuries, he should have passed out somewhere in the desert between the villages, unless he was close to the village when he was attacked. But if that were the case, then why did you not come help him fend off his attacker? What do you mean? McCade questioned, frowning. I didn't sense an attack, so I couldn't help him. I don't know how close he was to the village, so you said he was limping through the desert. While I do believe people can do amazing things when determined and their bodies are full of adrenaline, I don't think moving through the desert is ideal. Plus, if he was bleeding extensively, he'd have to eventually pass out from blood loss. It's just super convenient he managed to get back just in time to give you the information. Unless he was close enough to the village, but if that were the case, then why would you not have helped him? 'Cause you would have definitely been able to sense or see a fight if it were happening. No, I wouldn't have, 'cause I swear I didn't sense any fight. Mukade shouted. Uzumaki-san, isn't it? Chio spoke up, looking at the Kyubi Jinchuriki. What are you implying with this questioning? My point was, maybe we are thinking about this incorrectly. You council people and Gaara sent one shinobi out to get testimony from the vendor about Kankuro's alibi, since this is not a difficult task and doesn't require a whole group. What if we look at it this way? What if Satetsu got testimony that was inconvenient? Inconvenient? Tajiro asked, frowning. What do you mean? What if the vendor that sold Kankuro was the steak was alive? And confirmed to him that Kankuro was there at the time he claimed he was? Naruto questioned. Satetsu told me that the vendor was dead. Mukade shouted in response. See, the thing is, we're assuming that all parties in this case are loyal. Naruto interrupted. Your testimony holds merit because we are assuming you're loyal to Sunagekure. And in theory, why would anyone doubt you? You haven't done anything wrong. The blonde's gaze proceeded to turn icy. Except ignore your comrade having a major battle that wounded him gravely, unless maybe you were the one to attack him. Uzumaki-san, you can't be insinuating that Mukade attacked Satetsu, are you? Yura questioned, frowning. That's what I'm insinuating. Naruto continued, nodding his head confidently. 'Cause otherwise it doesn't make sense. It'd be super coincidental for this fight to have occurred far enough away that Mukade couldn't sense a battle, but also close enough that Satetsu could limp his way back to the village just in time to pass out right after giving information. Naruto-sensei's logic makes a ton of sense. Kanji noted as a small smirk developed on his lips. Heh. This is actually pretty cool. If Mukade was involved in this, then that would potentially mean he had a reason that the testimony would be problematic for him. It would prove Kankuro wasn't the culprit. Ebizo noted. Ebizo-sama, are you actually starting to believe Kankuro is innocent? Yura questioned in surprise. I know I'm starting to assume that. Chio spoke up, frowning slightly. I didn't really think anything about Mukade's interaction with Satetsu, but Uzumaki-san's logic makes sense. I got to see the injuries Satetsu has. I highly doubt he would have been able to remain conscious after his fight. Now that I am thinking about it from this perspective, for Mukade to have had any interaction with him now seems suspect to me. But then, it makes no sense for Mukade to try and attack Satetsu about whether or not the vendor was alive, unless Mukade is the one doing the grave robbing. Gaara realized, crossing his arms, and the vendor's testimony, and by proxy Satetsu's, would clear Kankuro's name and open up investigation in other shinobi, which could expose his guilt. But Mukade is not a puppeteer shinobi. He wouldn't be trying to follow Sasori's footsteps. Yura stated. That's because we are assuming the culprit was stealing the bodies for that reason. Mukade could have done such a crime for other reasons. Temari commented as her eyes narrowed on him. You're responsible, aren't you? There's no proof of this. Mukade hissed loudly, interrupting her. Where is the proof any of this happened? You can't believe any of this bullshit. He then turned his head to Naruto and started to glare at the blonde. Well? Where's the proof of any of this? Well, I know an easy place to find proof, maybe. Why don't we all take a trip to Saba Village? And maybe try to find this meat vendor one more time? Naruto suggested. The meat vendor is dead! Mukade hissed. Satetsu reported It's your word that Satetsu reported this. We do not know. For all we know, he is still alive. Gaara spoke up, crossing his arms. I'll send another shinobi to check. Perhaps I could even do it myself, in case there is another ambush set up. Perhaps a council member would like to accompany me to verify my report. Mukade's eyes widened ever so slightly. Kazekage-sama, I do not believe that is necessary. I concur with Kazekage-sama. I'll accompany him. We can get a confirmation. Chio spoke up. In the meantime, we can do a brief investigation on Mukade's movements these past couple of days. You suspect me? The Sunagekure Jonin mumbled quietly. His hands tightened into fists as he turned to face Kankuro. He's the culprit. Don't waste your time. I'm not the culprit. As they're going to find out. Kankuro replied. And they'll find you guilty. It is decided. Chiyoba-sama and I will go to Saba Village. I should not be gone long, Gaara stated as he held out his hand towards Mukade. In the meantime, Temari, please apprehend this suspect for the time being until his guilt is either confirmed or denied. With pleasure. Temari said with a smirk as she walked towards Mukade. Mukade instinctively took a step backwards. His eyes started to scan the area around him before he exchanged a look with Yura. The councilman steeled his eyes and shook his head. They'll confirm Kankuro's innocence, then I'll be locked up permanently. I can't assist Sasori-sama like that. I need to escape. Somehow. Mokade's eyes scanned the room. Before he could do anything, however, the ground around his feet started to open. Rocks rushed forward from the ground and surrounded his lower body. He looked in horror as he turned his attention towards the other shinobi, looking for the source. They narrowed in on Katsumi, who had hands crossed in a hand seal. Strange. I don't recall your student being named Temari. Gaara commented to Naruto with the slightest hint of a smirk on his face. Sorry, Kazekage-sama. But I thought he looked like he was going to escape. Figured I might as well give it a chance to help. Katsumi spoke up, rubbing the back of her head sheepishly. He wasn't paying attention anyway. Some jonin, huh? Don't mock me because you go the jump on me. You're just some fresh Konoha genin. You got lucky that I was focused on more pressing matters. Mokade hissed, giving up all pretenses. You think you're so special. You're not. You're nothing to me. Within an instant, Mokade channeled chakra to his lower body and blew off the stone prison holding him in place. Eyes filled with anger, he turned to Katsumi and rushed forward, reaching for a kunai. He got to her quicker than he could react, causing her eyes to widen. Mokade, you idiot! Yura shook his head, closing his eyes. Sasori-sama will surely not miss a spy this foolish. Before Mokade's knife could connect to her, however, Naruto jumped in. The Konoha Jonin was standing right behind Mokade, holding his own kunai with his right hand against the man's back while his left hand locked him in a chokehold. What kind of miserable piece of shit are you? You're so bitter that a genin got a jump on you that you sacrifice whatever plans you had to escape just to get some revenge. You're a fucking idiot! Naruto growled. His eyes then moved over to Gaara. I assume you want this asshole alive to question? I do, so unfortunately, I do need you to not kill him. Gaara replied. Gotcha. The Uzumaki nodded his head before turning his attention back to the man. Lucky bastard. Whatever torture Gaara gives you will be infinitely better than what I would do to you. No one dares try to touch my students and get away with it. Mokade did not get a chance to respond. Naruto tightened his grip around his neck. The man struggled and tried to pull away, but was unable to. He quickly fell into unconsciousness. Naruto finally lightened his grip and dropped him to the ground. Temari then rushed over and picked him up. He'll be in a cell, locked up when he wakes up. Gaara will be alerted when he wakes so he can talk to him about the missing bodies. Temari stated. Good. Naruto nodded his head. He then turned his head towards Katsumi. Hey, you okay? Katsumi was shivering slightly in place, her eyes focused intently on her unconscious body of Mokade. Naruto, Hanabi, and Kanji all were looking at her in concern. The kunoichi was silent for a moment before she finally turned attention to Naruto and nodded her head. I'll be fine, she said softly. Jay just need to get more used to things like that. The blonde jonin frowned, but nodded his head in understanding. Regardless, we have at least a prime suspect. I will interrogate Mokade when he wakes up and see if his testimony provides any more info for me, Gaara stated. He then turned to the council members, still sitting down in their chairs. I trust that this is enough evidence to confirm my brother's innocence. Indeed, Kazekage-sama. Chio nodded her head. We apologize for the overreach in our powers in our arrest and investigation, Ebizo added, bowing his head. While I understand your motives, this is something we will discuss again at a later date. I am your Kazekage and you are my counsel. We need to have a better working relationship to prevent situations like this from happening again. It does our village harm if we do not fully trust each other. We understand and apologize once more, Kazekage-sama. Yura replied, bowing his head as well. With the council now at ease, Gaara turned his head and made a gesture with his hand. One of the council members immediately rushed over to the puppeteer and unlocked the shackles holding him in place. All accounts of treason were gone. Kankuro was officially innocent. What an utter shit show! Yura grumbled. When he arrived at Kankuro's trial, he was convinced that they had enough evidence to get Kankuro convicted temporarily. He had spent so long fanning the anti-Kazekage sentiment amongst all council members that would listen to him, and enough quality false evidence was planted. He was not naive to believe the accusation would hold for too long, but it would for just long enough to cause chaos. Mokade, you should have just gone and killed that meat vendor. Why did you do something so stupid as simply attacking Satetsu? Yura's thoughts were sour. Your very life right now puts Sasori-sama in danger, now that you're in custody. I'm going to have to arrange an accident for you. The council member sighed to himself as he entered his mansion. As he walked in, however, his eyes widened at the sight that he saw. Kabuto-sama? Yura mumbled. Why are you still here? Standing in the living room with a bag over his shoulders was Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi was currently sitting in a chair in Yura's kitchen, reading over a scroll. He turned his attention to the council member upon hearing his voice and he smiled. Ah, Yura. I was wondering when your trial would have ended, he stated. How did it go? I presume Kankuro was found guilty. No. Innocent. Mukade was found guilty in his place. In your place, Yura replied, eyes narrowing. What's the meaning of this? The whole purpose of the trial and the chaos associated was to give you an opportunity to sneak out while the Kazekage was busy. Why are you still here in the village? Oh. My apologies. Kabuto frowned as he pocketed the scroll. I suppose I should have made my own personal changes to schedule known. Changes? Yura's eyes narrowed further as he began to growl. Mukade is now in prison and is a liability and could potentially leak information about Sasori-sama to the Kazekage. This puts Sasori-sama at risk. And you had the gall to just remain here and make that risk entirely meaningless? If it makes you feel better, I can sneak in and slit Mukade's throat before he leaks anything too sensitive. Kabuto offered. Actually, you don't have to give me a yes, I'll do it anyway. You seem awfully confident in your abilities to sneak through the village for someone who needed our assistance to get into Suna. Do you really think you can avoid the Kazekage's detection? The council member asked. Yes, he replied, adjusting his glasses. To be honest, I didn't really need your help getting into the village. A small chuckle escaped his lips. I just used you two as an excuse to re-establish a relationship with Sasori. That was the real purpose for you two. Any relationship you hope to establish with Sasori-sama will be gone once he finds out about this. Yura snarled. I guess that would be your opinion. Kabuto shrugged his shoulders. He proceeded to stand up from his chair. Are you not even slightly curious why I am still here in Suna? He walked towards Yura, who remained quiet. The council member reached for a kunai. Guess not. Well, I'm still here because I have two things I would like to test out. The first of which is the Konoha shinobi. The Jonin shinobi, Uzumaki Naruto, is a person of interest to me. He's the Kyubi Jinchuriki, the student of someone involved in killing Orochimaru-sama. I would like to see how he has developed as a shinobi. Within an instant, Kabuto disappeared. He was now directly in front of Yura. Before the Suna shinobi could react, Kabuto had grabbed him by the throat and pushed him forward, pinning him against the wall of his own home. Yura winced as he dropped the kunai in his hands. The man looked at Kabuto with pained eyes as he could feel his consciousness starting to fade. And the second? He managed to ask. I wish to test out a jutsu that I've been studying. It's an old favorite that Orochimaru-sama learned and I feel like I just figured out the specifics of it, so I'd like to try it out. And I feel as if Suna gives me a chance to try it out and see the extent of its damage. Kabuto replied. Have you ever heard of the Edo Tensei? Yura's eyes widened in horror, as realization dawned on him exactly what was going to happen to him. God, that was a mess. Naruto chuckled as he laid down on a chair in Gaara's library. He and his students were back at the Kazekage's mansion. It was 8 o'clock in the night and they were currently alone. The Kazekage was currently in his office, awaiting to hear word that Mukade had woken up. Temari, Lee, and Tenten were out at dinner, currently discussing plans that they had for tomorrow's lesson for the Sunagakure Academy students. With the mansion to themselves and after a long, busy day, Naruto and his team decided to simply relax. That felt a lot more complicated than I think it should have been, Kanji admitted, frowning. Tell me about it, Naruto grumbled. I'm not the biggest fan of political crap. I don't understand what the council's big issue was today. I'm not the biggest fan of political crap. Ironic statement, coming from a man who wishes to be Hokage. The Yamanaka replied, grinning. Touché. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, it's my weakest aspect, but I'll just learn to deal with it. I think I'm getting better at least. If you aren't, at least my sister will be there with you. Hanabi stated, giggling. Hinata-ne-san I think is getting pretty good with politics. Damn right she is. Then again, she's good at most things. the Jinchuriki stated proudly. His eyes then moved towards Katsumi, who was being quiet. Hey, you sure you okay, Katsumi? I'm fine, Naruto-sensei. She spoke, sighing. I just need some time to process things. Fair. Naruto nodded his head, frowning. For what it's worth, know that as long as I'm here, nothing bad will ever happen to you three. I'll give it everything I got to keep you all safe. I know. Katsumi said, frowning. But look, is the power difference between a genin and a jonin really that big? You handled that guy so easily and effortlessly, but he already overwhelmed me with killing intent earlier, and he even blew off my jutsu without so much as breaking a sweat. She crossed her arms, looking down slightly. It's demoralizing, just seeing how useless I am right now. We're going to get that level someday. Hanabi stated, frowning. Don't talk down to yourself like that. I mean, I don't think there's something wrong with wondering thoughts like that. Kanji admitted with a shrug. I mean, I already know that I'll never reach the level of that Suna Jonin, let alone the level of Naruto-sensei. That's where you're wrong, Kanji. Naruto stated. His genin turned to face him. Look, I understand the general feeling you all have. On my first C-rank mission, I had to face off with an A-rank and S-rank missing ninja who tried to attack Han and I. And dash, who's Han and I? Kanji questioned. A close friend of mine. Basically a brother to me. Naruto admitted. He then shook his head. But that's not the topic. The point is that I was completely overwhelmed in power at that point in time. And believe me, it felt very noticeable. I don't think I acknowledged it for a little bit out of stubborn pride, but I know I felt completely outclassed and useless afterwards. But you know what? My Jonin-sensei trained me and my team into the ground, and we got stronger. And we continued to get stronger from there. The Jinchuriki smiled as his eyes moved each of his students. You all are fresh genin, just like I was. And even if you feel weak right now, no you're not. You all did impress the hell out of me when I gave you all your graduation tests, and you all are still impressing me. You're all going to be great shinobi one day, whether you all believe so or not. He then brought a fist up to his face, as a smirk developed on his lips. So don't look back at that Mukade asshole and think you're weak. Use him as motivation to grow stronger. It won't take long before you start noticing improvements. You'll all grow strong, I know so. The three genin students looked at Naruto for a moment in silence. Katsumi and Hanabi both quickly started to smile, nodding their heads in agreement. Thanks, Naruto-sensei. Katsumi said as she brought hands together, her smile turning into a grin. I'll try. I'll try harder than ever to make up for the difference in strength. Unlike his fellow teammates, Kanji had a bit of a mixed expression on his face. Naruto could tell he was not fully believing his words. A second passed before he had a relaxed smile of his own and he chuckled. You've got a way with words, Naruto-sensei. Such a strong way that Hanabi didn't even correct your swearing. He stated with a chuckle. Naruto proceeded to chuckle as well as he rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Hanabi's eyes widened momentarily. I mean, he was an asshole. That's gotta be okay to call him out as one, yeah? The Jonin asked. Jerk would have worked just as well, just saying. Hanabi commented, crossing her arms slightly. She tried to look annoyed at her Jonin-sensei. However, she had an amused look on her face that betrayed her intent. I do have to second your student, Naruto-san. You do have a way of words that's quite laudable. Team 9 immediately tensed up at the sound of the unknown voice. All three genin proceeded to stand up and get into a defensive formation, each pulling out a kunai. Naruto stood directly in front of them and started to look around him. I know I recognize that voice. I can't place it exactly, but I know that's no friend. Naruto's mind was trying to pinpoint who was around them. Show yourself! Well, since you asked so nicely. Immediately afterwards, Kabuto walked into the library. Naruto tensed up even further as he reached for his own kunai. Yakushi Kabuto. Naruto's eyes narrowed in anger. What the hell are you doing here? You remember me, Naruto-san? I thought the last time we met was back during the preliminary round of the Chunin exams. Kabuto stated with a chuckle. Or did your friend Dosa tell you anything more about me? He did. Believe me, I know all about you and your motives for being in Konoha, you traitor. Naruto growled. Again, what the hell are you doing here? You want to get down to business right away? That's no fun. I wanted to talk for a little bit. Kabuto sighed, shaking his head in mock disappointment. If you most know, I had a few errands to attend to here in Suna. But when I heard you were in the village, I just had to see how you are doing. Naruto-sensei, who is this man? What errands is he talking about? Hanabi questioned, her eyes narrowing on the man. She instinctively activated her Byakugan. Hyuga-san, am I correct? You don't need to worry about my errands, the silver-haired shinobi said as a grin developed on his face. You three genin have nothing to worry about right now. At this moment, I'm just here for your sensei. I'm here to see how Anko-san's prize student has developed. Damn right they have nothing to worry about, Naruto exclaimed as he brought his hands into a hand sign. 'Cause I'm gonna wipe the floor with you before you can do anything. I have no clue what you are doing here in Suna, but coming up to me was a big mistake. I'm taking you back to Konoha dead or alive. What is going on? Gaara questioned to himself as he ran through Sunagekyu's prison. The Kazekage had been in his office, waiting for word that Mikade was conscious, when he was alerted of a new presence in Sunagekure, an entity that had Kage-level chakra reserves that had seemingly materialized at Sunagekyu's prison. Gaara immediately rushed over to the prison as fast as possible, and was now rushing through the prison hallways towards the source. All Suna shinobi should feel this. I trust they'll be coming this way. I may need backup for this, Gaara realized as he turned the corner through the prison hallways. Who the hell is this, though? And how big of a threat are they? And why does the chakra source feel familiar? It almost resembles Gaara's thoughts were interrupted as he finally reached his destination. A door to a private cell was completely blown off, rock and brick scattered throughout the hallway. Gaara proceeded to walk into the room and his eyes widened. In the center of the bare cell was Mikade, blood dripping from a gaping hole in his chest. Standing directly above the body was a man with spiky, short auburn-colored hair, wearing a simple black long-sleeved shirt with chain mail underneath and black sweatpants. He had 2 canisters that were tied neatly to the side of his pants. The man looked up over to Gaara. The Godane Kazekage stared directly into the man's eyes, completely black eyes that were devoid of pupils, coloration, or any life in them. How is he alive? Gaara wondered in disbelief as he stared intently at Raza, the Yondaime Kazekage and his father. Chapter 65, The Grave Robber and the Kazekage. Damn right they have nothing to worry about, Naruto exclaimed as he brought his hands into a hand sign. 'Cause I'm gonna wipe the floor with you before you can do anything. I have no clue what you are doing here in Suna, but coming up to me was a big mistake. I'm taking you back to Konoha dead or alive. Shadow Clone Jutsu. In a poof of smoke, 50 clones of Naruto appeared throughout the room. 3 of them rushed to his genin students' sides while the rest of the clones quickly surrounded Kabuto. Alright, let's get you guys out of here, one of the clones told the genin. What? But we can help fight, Katsumi quickly stated. We dash, not happening, the second clone interrupted. This guy's too dangerous. We're keeping you 3 safe. Immediately, the 3 clones grabbed onto the 3 genin and disappeared, using the Shenshin. Practical decision to get your students out of the crossfires, but do you think we should follow them outside? Kabuto questioned with a smirk, his eyes moving from clone to clone. We are in the Kazekage's mansion, after all. It would be a shame if anything were to get too damaged in our fight. In response, the Naruto clones charged forward at Kabuto. A few of the clones brandished kunai, a few charged forward with their fists, and a few began running through hand signs. Kabuto chuckled to himself as he began to crouch, lowering himself to the ground. He then held his palms outward. Dance of the Willow. As the first set of the clones reached Kabuto's side to attack, 8 long, sharp bones grew outward from Kabuto's body, from his palms, knees, elbows, and shoulders. Kabuto used the bones to parry the kunai strikes and return a strike at the clones, causing them to disappear. 15 clones proceeded to back off as Kabuto's dance proceeded to slice through all the other clones. They proceeded to share a look between each other before they all continued forward, creating the same hand signs, wind style, drilling air bullets. All 15 clones released bullets of air from their mouths that flew rapidly towards Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi jumped into the air. The bones on his body retracted back into the skin as he held out his hands, making a sweeping gesture at the clones. 10-finger drilling bullets. Hardened bones released from his fingertips, moving rapidly towards the Naruto clones. The bullets collided with them, causing them to disappear. Kabuto landed smoothly on the ground, the real Naruto standing at a distance, glaring at him. What kind of jutsu was that? He questioned. Were you using your own bones for those jutsu? I was. That's all thanks to a very special Kekkei Jinkai found only in the Kagaya clan, the Shikatsumiyaku, or Dead Bone Pulse. Kabuto explained. With it, I can manipulate my own skeletal structure, manipulating the growth and structure of my bones. I can grow additional bones that I can use as weapons, amongst other things. Naruto shook his head. Last I heard, you did not have such a Kekkei Jinkai. Actually, it sounds nearly identical to another shinobi that worked for Orochimaru that Taiyane and Dosu mentioned before. You're right, I wasn't born with this ability. That honor belonged to the late Kagaya Kimimaro, a faithful servant to Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto explained. However, I tended to his body and, through a mixture of technique and research, managed to meld his DNA into mine, helping me gain access to the Shikatsumiyaku and all of the jutsu associated with it. A chuckle proceeded to escape his lips. I'm sure Orochimaru-sama is quite jealous right now. So you stole his bloodline ability, that's so horrible. Realization dawned on Naruto's face as a disgusted scowl developed. You're the one who was grave robbing. You stole bodies so you can experiment with and add more abilities to your own arsenal. Guilty as charged. The silver-haired shinobi replied, chuckling. The Jinchuriki's scowl deepened. Yeah, you're coming back to Konoha dead. But I'll make sure that you stay alive just a little bit longer so that way I can introduce you to the Kazekage. I'm sure Gaara would love to meet you. He immediately brought his hands together. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Hurricane Manifestation. The ground directly underneath Kabuto's feet proceeded to light up. His eyes lit up in realization as a large tornado-like wind swept upward. The wind pierced the ceiling of the room, knocking Kabuto upward all the way to the roof of the mansion. Sorry for the hole in your mansion, Gaara. I'm sure you'll forgive me when I give you this scumbag, though. Naruto thought to himself as he disappeared. Using the Shunshin, Naruto appeared directly on top of the mansion's room. The giant tornado was still there, spinning rapidly. Within a second, Kabuto forced himself out of the wind. The silver-haired shinobi's glasses were slightly cracked and there were a few cuts on his skin. Despite the damage he just took, he did not seem angered. I'm impressed you managed to slip a seal that fast underneath me. I didn't even notice it. That's quite impressive. The former right hand of Orochimaru praised. I suppose that's just to be expected of an Uzumaki's Fuinjutsu. Naruto did not respond to the man. He proceeded to bite his right thumb before running through a series of hand signs. Summoning Jutsu! In a poof of smoke, Gamaken appeared on the roof, gripping his Susumida tightly. Hey Gamaken, I'm going to need as much help defeating this guy. Be careful with approaching him. Naruto warned the toad as he made a hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu! Both Naruto and Gamaken were immediately surrounded by over 100 Naruto clones. All of the clones started to move closer towards Kabuto, eyeing him cautiously. In contrast, Kabuto seemed to assess the situation curiously, as if he was deciding what technique he should use. Kabuto has access to a Kekkei Jinkai that he shouldn't. I have no idea what other abilities he managed to steal. I'm going to need to be as cautious as possible when approaching him. I cannot let this guy get out of here. Naruto realized. How are you still alive? Gaara questioned Raza, his eyes narrowing. The stunned silence he had experienced was fading away and he was now looking at the man with a mixture of confusion and anger. Orochimaru killed you. How can you still be here? Raza stared back at Gaara intently. The Godame Kazekage was unable to place the emotion on his face. A few seconds passed before the man simply sighed. Gaara. Raza finally spoke. Gaara crossed his arms, shaking his head. I'll ask it again, how are you here right now? Gaara, while I am physically here, I am not alive. The Yondaime Kazekage answered. I was summoned here from beyond the grave by another, unknown shinobi and am meant to fulfill their objectives. The first of which was to kill this man right here. Gaara was silent once again, his eyes focused intently on Raza. They then moved downward to the canisters on his father's side. He could sense the man's infamous gold dust inside. He could also sense that the dust was moving about, as if it was preparing to be launched forward in an attack. The man you just killed was just found guilty of treason against Tsunagakure. As the Godame Kazekage, I was waiting for him to regain consciousness so I could ask him questions about his actions against Suna. The Jinchuriki stated sharply as he uncrossed his arms. The cork on his gourd proceeded to open. I suspect that the person who summoned you is the one who Makade was working for. Godame Kazakage, huh? Raza's lips twitched slightly. You really have grown, Gaara. He was about to say more, but the man could feel his body starting to move without his consent. A grimace developed on his lips. Gaara, I am about to attack. You best be prepared. Before Raza could finish his statement, gold dust rushed from the canisters on his hips, moving directly at Gaara like a sharp needle. The sand in Gaara's gourd rushed forward, creating a barrier of sand. The sand blocked the gold dust from piercing initially, however the gold dust continued to apply force. A second passed before a small hole started to develop in Gaara's barrier of sand. His eyes widened slightly. The gold dust needle proceeded to break through his sand and rush towards him. The Jinchuriki moved to the side just in time, avoiding the attack, and made a sweeping gesture. Sand rushed from the ground of the prison cell in the shape of spikes, attempting to skewer the Yandame Kazakage. The man, however, jumped backwards, moving outside from a hole in the wall. Gaara jumped forward through the hole as well. A platform of sand developed directly underneath his feet as began to float directly over the village of Sunagakure. Floating in the sky as well, underneath a platform of gold dust, was Raza. Gaara, please recall that my gold dust is heavier than your sand. It was how I able to control Shikaku. You need to fight me carefully, or else I will overwhelm you. Raza warned. That was when I was a child. Today, you will not be able to overwhelm me. Gaara said sharply as he crossed his arms. Sand rushed forward from the ground underneath them. Two large pillars of sand quickly developed and moved rapidly through the air. They rushed Raza's body, attempting to crush him. Gold dust surrounded the Yandame Kazakage's body, creating a barrier that stopped the sand. Within the safety of his barrier, Raza lifted his right hand, causing gold dust particles to develop behind Gaara's back. The gold dust changed shape into several needles that flew towards Gaara. Gaara lowered his hands, causing the platform of sand to lower closer to the ground, causing the needles to miss. These gold needles, however, proceeded to redirect themselves and fly towards Gaara once again. The Jinchuriki clapped his hands together. Just as the gold dust needles were about to reach Gaara's body, sand rushed from Gaara's gourd and surrounded the multiple needles in a circular prison. Gaara extended his right hand, causing the orb of sand to move forward, before he caused the sand to implode. As sand started to drip downward back to the ground, gold dust particles dripped as well, no longer in the shape of the needles. Your gold dust is heavier than my sand and there's nothing I can do about that. However, I have the strength to overcome that disadvantage, Gaara said as he brought his hands together again. Sand hail! The sand from the ground rushed further up into the sky, above his and Raza's positions and formed a cloud of sand. Sand proceeded to drop from the sky in the shape of large boulders, aiming directly for Raza's completely encased body. The sand boulders buffeted the gold dust orb. After continuous strikes, a crack started to develop on the gold dust. The orb proceeded to fall apart, leaving Raza's body exposed. The Yandame Kazakage, however, was in the process of finishing hand signs. Gold dust stream! A large column of gold dust rushed upwards. The dust rushed through the falling sand boulders, piercing them and causing them to crumble. The gold dust continued upward until it reached the cloud, causing the cloud to dissipate back into normal sand. Raza proceeded to lower his right hand, causing the gold dust stream in the sky to barrel downwards towards Gaara. Sand immediately rushed out of Gaara's gourd, intercepting the blast. The two streams collided with each other, trying to overpower each other, before they both dissipated, falling neatly to the ground. You were able to prevent my gold dust from dominating your sand. A small, sad smile developed on Raza's lips. You have grown stronger indeed, Gaara. Stop saying that. Gaara shook his head, scowling slightly as he made another gesture, causing more sand from the ground to rise up around him. The situation was already troubling, reuniting with his father and being forced to fight him. Raza's comments about his growth were only making the situation more uncomfortable for him. That dust, that can't be. Raza-sama can't be alive, can he? He is. But why is he fighting Godame-sama? What's going on? Sunagakure shinobi and citizens were starting to observe the fight in the sky with a mix of awe, confusion, and fright. They could see the sand and gold dust competing against each other, continuously trying to overwhelm each other. After each collision, streams of sand and gold dust would fall to the ground, making scattered piles everywhere. With each passing second, the bystanders were getting more concerned and more anxious. Temari-san, isn't your father dead? Lee questioned the kunoichi. He is. But there's not a single other person than him who should be able to use those jutsu. It has to be him. Temari replied, biting her lip, her hand instinctively going to her fan. Damn it. I have no clue what's going on. This is the thing that happened when Orochimaru attacked our village during the Chunin exams. Tenten realized as she rubbed her chin in thought. He brought the Shodai and Naidame Hokage and the Shodai Tsuchikage. Someone must have done that with your father. But who? Temari growled. Who the hell was able to dash, Temari? The three shinobi turned their attention towards Kankuro, who was rushing over to them. The puppeteer was holding a large scroll in his hands. Wise Father Dash, I don't know Kankuro, but he's here and he's trying to kill Gaara. Temari gritted her teeth. I need to get up there and fight him. Gaara-san is most likely engaging him in the air so that way the fight doesn't affect civilians. With the nature of their attacks, fighting on the ground or on a building could have drastic effects, Lee noted, frowning. Temari, you can fight though, can't you? Tenten questioned. I've heard you have some impressive abilities with wind-style ninjutsu. Surely you can create winds that can help Gaara. I can. I just need to be careful. I don't want to accidentally hit Gaara. Temari grumbled. She pulled out her fan finally and gripped it tightly, but still resisted the urge to swing it. I think I have an idea for that, Kankuro said as he extended his scroll. Before anyone could question him, the puppeteer shinobi unsealed the scroll. A large wooden puppet revealed itself. The puppet had a head that resembled a bat with pointed ears and fangs that were made out of iron. The puppet's head was connected to two large wings. The wings also featured what resembled a strap. Is this a new puppet, Kankuro? Tenten questioned. Sorta. It's actually a puppet made by Chiyoba-sama. I was with her when I first noticed the fight between Gaara and Dad. She seemed to realize that I wanted to get involved, so she gave me this puppet, Komori. Kankuro answered. His eyes focused on his sister as he gestured the puppet towards her. It's not particularly a combat puppet, it's a supplement. Whoever is wearing it can fly. Put the puppet on Temari and I will guide you into the fight, away from Dad's attacks. Without question, she grabbed the puppet from Kankuro and tied the strap around her. The head of the puppet rested directly on top of her head. She made a swinging gesture with her fan. The wings of the puppet did not seem to affect her swinging. A smirk developed on her lips as she gave her brother a thumbs up. Give me a moment if you don't mind. I'm going to get to higher ground so I can get a better look on the fight and be more reactive with how I position you. When I'm in a good spot, I'll automatically move you up. So be ready to fight as quick as you can, okay? Kankuro told her. Temari nodded her head in understanding. Kankuro immediately rushed off, looking for the most ideal position to direct Temari. A few seconds of silence passed as Temari, Lee, and Tenten remained still, watching the fight between father and son. A loud explosion sounded through the area, however. The three shinobi turned away momentarily towards the source of the noise. Something's happening at the mansion. Temari shook her head. Steam clouds were now being emitted from the mansion. What's even happening here? Tenten frowned. Suna's not under attack from an army or something, is it? It shouldn't be. The Suna Jonin shook her head. She then turned her attention to the two Konoha shinobi and sighed. I'm pretty sure most Suna shinobi are going to be distracted by this incident with father. Would you too, Dash? Lee had already nodded his head before she could finish. Understood. We will see what is going on. The two Konoha shinobi quickly hurried off towards the Kazekage's mansion. Temari was no alone, waiting for Kankuro to get into position. Just wait a moment, Gaara. Kankuro and I are going to help. She braced herself for combat. Father, I have no clue who summoned you here, but I'm going to do everything I can to stop you. Scorch release, incinerating flare technique. Kabuto had created a large flaming orb that expanded around him. The orb erupted, creating a massive circular explosion that covered nearly the whole area of the roof. Naruto, Gamaken, and most of the clones were able to jump into the air high enough in time to avoid the assault. Some of the slower clones, however, were quickly caught on flames and dissipated on the spot. When the explosion faded and steam started to emit from the blast radius, Kabuto remained at the center. Part of his shirt was burned off and his exposed skin looked burned. He looked as if he had just taken the full force of his own technique. Despite that, he seemed to chuckle as he brought his right hand to his wounds, causing it to be covered in green chakra. Wow, that's quite an interesting technique. Very effective. I think I can incorporate that well into my own arsenal if I use it better. He chuckled to himself as his wounds slowly started to heal. You literally took your own attack. What the hell? Are you just experimenting here or something? Naruto asked. Well, yes. Kabuto continued to chuckle. This is the Scorch Release Kekii Genkai, and I just mixed it within my DNA just the other day. I haven't had the chance to experiment with its capabilities yet, so I needed to see what it could do. Naruto, this man is insane. Gamaken noted, his grip tightening on his Susumuda. Am I really? The silver-haired shinobi frowned. All I am doing is trying to improve my understanding of my capabilities. I don't see how that is insane. 5 of Naruto's clones immediately jumped towards Kabuto, placing him within a circle. They each ran through a series of hand signs. Uzumaki Naruto Elemental Barrage! The 5 clones immediately released different elemental ninjutsu simultaneously, one breathing out a massive fireball, another breathing out a bullet of water, another creating bullet-sized rocks, a fourth channeling a wave of electricity from its palms, and the last breathing out rapid-fire bullets of air. Kabuto looked at the upcoming onslaught in excitement as he quickly reached for his right shoulder. He quickly pulled out a large bone that was shaped to resemble a stone and charged forth in the direction of the earth elemental jutsu. With the newly formed bone, Kabuto sliced through the stones, destroying them instantly before they could make contact. He continued forward as the other elemental jutsu collided with each other, charging at the clones. The first clone was immediately sliced in half by the sword-shaped bone, causing it to dissipate. The other 4 clones started to jump back, creating distance. Kabuto, however, turned back towards them and made a swiping gesture with his free hand, releasing a barrage of bone-shaped finger bullets that rushed at them. The bones made contact, destroying the clones immediately. As Kabuto turned his attention to the original Naruto and his remaining clones, Gamaken jumped forward, striking at him with his Susumuda. Kabuto parried the initial strike with his bone, and then proceeded to counter-strike. Gamaken jumped into the air, avoiding the attack. The toad then proceeded to close its mouth as it channeled chakra. One of the Naruto clones quickly jumped onto his head, performing hand signs. Fire style, Toad Oil Flare Bullet! The clone breathed out a barrage of fire simultaneously with a deluge of oil that Gamaken released. The 2 jutsu combined, creating a massive stream of fire that flew towards Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi jumped into the air to avoid it. More clones of Naruto, however, predicted that action and jumped into the air, directly above Kabuto's body. Nope. Down you go! One of the clones stated as they all proceeded to make the hand signs. Wind style, great breakthrough! All of the Naruto clones released a massive gust of wind from their mouths that Kabuto could not avoid. The wind forced Kabuto's body back downwards, directly into the fire. The winds then collided with the flames as well, fanning them and making the fire even stronger. H! Kabuto shouted in pain. His eyes were closed as he brought his hands together, forming hand signs. Water style, giant vortex jutsu. Water began to form around Kabuto's body and began to circle around, completely extinguishing the flames around him. The water then launched upward. The water made direct contact with all the clones above, destroying them instantly. With the fire gone, Kabuto quickly turned his attention back to Gamaken. He swung his hand upwards at the clone above him, sending another bone-sized bullet at him. The bullet quickly pierced the clone before it could move, dissipating it. In response, Gamaken charged forward again. The giant toad swung the Susumuda at Kabuto. He jumped backwards, avoiding the attack. The original Naruto, however, jumped forward at him. Chakra began to channel in his hands. Odama Rasengan! The chakra formed a massive, spiraling ball of pure chakra. Naruto attempted to shove it into Kabuto's back, but the silver-haired shinobi turned around just in time. He proceeded to channel chakra of his own into an orb of pure fire. Scorch Release, Incinerating Flare Technique! The 2 giant orbs collided, creating a massive explosion that knocked both shinobi backwards. Each landed on opposite sides of the room. Naruto stood next to Gamaken, looking at Kabuto intently. Your combat style is dangerously effective, Naruto-san. You have so much deadly attacks in your arsenal. Kabuto praised as he brought his right hand, which was covered again in green chakra, to more of his exposed skin, healing his wounds. You're downright ruthless. I'm doing whatever it takes to take you down, Naruto stated sharply as he brought his hand together, preparing for another attack. Don't say that, Naruto-san. Kabuto frowned. I'm not trying to kill you, after all. I'm just trying to gauge your strength, after all, since I have the opportunity to. Gauge my strength for what? Naruto's eyes narrowed. I want to know if you'll be able to survive against Akatsuki, he answered. Naruto's eyes somehow narrowed even further. And what do you know about Akatsuki? And why do you care if I can beat them? We aren't friends, Naruto-san, but in this case, I'd rather you not die to them, Kabuto answered. Are you an enemy of theirs? The blonde asked. Am I? Probably not. At least I'm not one to them yet. The former right hand to Orochimaru shrugged his shoulders. It's just in my benefit that I don't have to worry about a few members of their group. Well, you aren't going to have to worry about them. 'Cause you're going to be dying tonight, Naruto replied as he started finishing hand signs. Wind style, drilling air bullets. After inhaling a deep breath, Naruto released a barrage of bullets of pure air directly at Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi jumped into the air, avoiding them. Gamaken jumped back into the fight, swinging his Susumoto once again. Kabuto, however, turned his body towards the toad this time and extended his hands forward. Many hidden shadow snake hands! Immediately, hundreds of snakes shot forth from Kabuto's sleeves. The snakes rushed at Gamaken, forcing him backwards and biting him in the process. The toad shouted in pain as the snakes began to increase the strength of their bite. Poison was starting to drip from the teeth of the snakes directly into the wounds of the toad, which caused him to scream even louder. A few seconds passed by before the toad's eyes started to close and he disappeared in a poof of smoke, having returned home. Damn it! Naruto shook his head. I seem to get the up on him, but he manages to make quick work of all my clones and now just managed to beat Gamaken with only one real attack on him. Just how strong is this guy now? A few seconds passed by before the snakes returned to Kabuto's sleeves. He adjusted his glasses for a second before turning back to Naruto, still smiling. Anything else you'd like to do, Naruto-san? I still got time before I have to get out of here, he questioned. Fuck! Naruto growled, shaking his head. He's toying with me. I know he is. Then don't toy any longer with him yourself. Kurama's voice echoed in his head. Take him down already! The Uzumaki nodded his head as he closed his eyes, beginning to channel the Kyuubi's chakra. I think Naruto-sensei is channeling the Kyuubi's chakra, Hanabi commented, her Byakugan eyes focused on the battle she was seeing. He must be taking this seriously. The 3 Genin students of Team 9 were outside of the Kazekage's mansion, in an open field nearby. Naruto's clones had directed them towards there and were currently keeping them there against the will. All 3 were eyeing the top of the mansion. Kanji and Katsumi occasionally turned their attention to Hanabi, awaiting her updates from the battle. God, who the hell is that guy? He's giving Naruto-sensei a run for his money. Katsumi shook her head, her hand going to her wooden sword. We have to help him. Nah. One of the clones replied immediately. That guy is way too dangerous. So we just have to let Naruto-sensei deal with him by himself? That's bullshit. Katsumi hissed. I second that notion. Kanji replied, crossing his arms. I mean, if this guy is that dangerous, then he needs any help he can get, even if it's help from just his Genin students. Another clone shook its head. I repeat. You're not leaving Dash. The clone was interrupted as Hanabi turned her attention to the clone and struck at it with her gentle fist. The clone's eyes widened for a second before it dissipated. Hanabi! Kanji's eyes widened at her reaction. The hell do you think you're doing? The other 2 Naruto clones started sharply. Naruto-sensei is in trouble. Let us go and help him. Please! Hanabi stated sharply. If he needs to use the Kyuubi's chakra, then this is bad and he needs all the help he can get. We can't just abandon him and watch him on the sidelines. Hebihiro, the snake around Hanabi's neck, nodded his head in quiet agreement. We have to be able to contribute something. Kanji added. He's our Jonin-sensei. Come on, you damn clones, let us go. Katsumi crossed her arms. The 2 clones shared a look between each other. There was silence for a few seconds before the 2 clones shook their heads. The original is going to kill us for this. One of the clones sighed. Whatever. Go help him. The other clone replied. But before you do, please let us do something. The Naruto clone pulled out 3 slips of paper and a pen. He quickly drew a seal on each of the seals and then walked over to the 3 Genin, slipping them on their back. What seal is that? Kanji questioned. It's for a protective style fuinjutsu that Naruto knows. You'll be safer with that, the clone replied. Now, hurry up and go help him before we change our minds. The three genin did not need to be told twice. They bolted back towards the mansion, prepared to fight. The two clones, alone, shared a look with each other. We should dissipate so that Naruto knows what's going to happen, one clone said. Naruto's gonna be pissed at us. The other sighed. He'll understand, but he's going to be pissed. With a sigh, the two clones disappeared in a poof of smoke. Wind style, sandstorm devastation. Gaara took in a deep breath before inhaling a massive sand cloud from his mouth that quickly moved through the sky towards Raza. Raza's gold dust rushed forward it, attempting to dissipate it. Gaara, however, quickly moved his hands. The sand began to move apart, avoiding Raza's dust. The sand quickly surrounded the man's body, forming a cocoon. Sand coffin! Gaara quickly opened his right hand before immediately closing it. Sand burial! The sand coffin quickly closed in on itself, crushing Raza's body. Gaara remained still, waiting for a sign that the battle was over. Within a few seconds, however, the sand was immediately forced apart by Raza's gold dust. The sand began to fall. Gaara's eyes widened, however, as he saw Raza's body destroyed. His body parts were scattered, being held up only by his gold dust. It appeared as if his gold dust acted on its accord, destroying the sand coffin. The remains of the Yondaime Kazekage quickly moved together. The body came back together, quickly reforming Raza's body, as if it had never been attacked. Gaara shook his head. I should have expected that. You're too cautious of a fighter to have gone down that easily. I'm assuming because of the Edo Tensei, you can naturally afford to be a little more reckless with your style. Gaara noted, frowning. I suppose. Raza noted. A small, sad smile developed on his lips. You did a lot of damage to my body, Gaara. I can now feel exactly how strong you are. You definitely deserve to be the Kazekage. Why are you so complimentary? Gaara questioned, his eyes narrowed. Is it because I'm finally strong enough to control Shikaku? There's not a chance that I'm the threat to Suna that you created me to be, so I'm finally able to treat it like a human? The smile instantly faded and Raza's eyes, despite being filled with no life, were now filled with sadness. Gaara. I'm sorry, stop with your empty words. It's distracting. Gaara interrupted, as he made a series of hand signs. Simply stay quiet until I can overcome you. Sand tsunami! Sand quickly started to form into a massive pile directly in front of Gaara's body. The sand immediately rushed forward, like an ocean wave at Raza's body. The auburn-haired shinobi moved through the air, avoiding the initial wave. As he avoided it, pillars of sand began to come out, aiming for the floating Yondaime Kazekage. Raza continued to dodge the new sand and began making a series of hand signs himself. Gold dust combustion! Another large pillar of gold dust rushed forward at Gaara's body. Gaara's sand quickly moved, forming a wall that blocked the attack. The moment the gold dust and sand collided, however, the gold dust exploded. The force of the explosion created a hole in Gaara's sand wall. Raza quickly unleashed a new wave of gold dust that rocketed forward through the hall. Gaara tried to move his body in time, but he was unable to move fast enough. The dust slammed directly into his stomach. He immediately coughed up blood from the force and was immediately knocked off his sand cloud perch. The remaining sand in the sky started to fall down. Shit. Gaara shook his head. I was careless. Gaara quickly closed his eyes, preparing to create another platform of sand to keep him afloat and continue fighting. Before he could, however, he was caught in someone's arms. The Godaime Kazekage turned his head and his eyes widened. Temari was in the sky, holding on to him. The kunoichi was strapped into Kankuro's Komori puppet. Doing all right, Gaara? She asked. I'm fine. Gaara's eyes moved to the puppet's wings. He could see blue chakra strings that were attached to it. I assume Kankuro is the reason you are flying? He is, yeah? She answered with a smirk. We're here to help in whatever way we can take down Father. A smile developed on Gaara's lips as he nodded his head in understanding. Temari let go of her brother, who proceeded to conjure up another platform of sand to stand over. Now that Gaara was stable once again, she reached to her side and grabbed her fan attached to her waist. The two shinobi remained still, floating in the sky, staring at the father. Raza eyed both siblings in surprise. His eyes focused on the expression of both Gaara and Temari before they moved downward in the direction of the chakra strings. The strings connected to the top of a nearby building, where he could see the faint outline of someone. While he could not identify them, the Yondaime Kazekage knew that it was Kankuro. "Temari, you and Kankuro are here, helping Gaara fend me off," Raza stated. "I am," the Kunoichi stated. She looked at her father with a forced neutral expression. She gripped her fan tightly. "Father, it's rather painful to see you in a situation like this. As it is for me," the father noted. Despite his words, a sad smile developed on his lips. "But seeing you two come to fight alongside Gaara does give me some comfort. You three are, indeed, siblings." It was not fully strong. His body was still tethered to this world, but Raza felt comfort. One of his dying regrets was his overall relationship with Gaara and how sealing Shikaku inside his youngest son damaged the relationship between his children. It seems that his concern was unnecessary. They were still family and were there for each other to this day. "So, he is using the Kyuubi's chakra," Kabuto noted, seeing the red chakra surround Naruto's body. He saw 3 taels worth of chakra develop and his bodily features start to become feral. A frown developed on the silver-haired shinobi's face. "I'm probably going to have to take this more seriously. This is only to gauge him and push him to grow stronger to defeat Akatsuki. I can't afford to let myself become a casualty in this." "Wind style, divine wind!" Naruto breathed out a massive gust of wind that diverged into multiple wind tornadoes that flew towards Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi rolled out of the way before the tornadoes could reach him, but the tornadoes proceeded to redirect themselves towards him. The silver-haired shinobi proceeded to make hand signs of his own. "Crystal style, growing crystal thorns!" The ground underneath Naruto's feet shot upwards. The Uzumaki jumped into the air just in time to avoid getting punctured by a large pink crystal. Alongside the edge of the crystal, more branches of crystals shot outwards, aiming for Naruto's body. The blonde proceeded to dodge again and land on top of one of the branches, then jumped further upward as more branches started to aim for him. More crystal shards developed on the ground directly underneath the tornadoes that were approaching Kabuto. The sheer force of the crystals managed to dissipate them, ending Naruto's jutsu. "Another Kekkai Genkai you stole from someone?" the blonde accused. "This one I didn't necessarily steal. Orochimaru-sama had a faithful servant who had the crystal release. He had plenty of DNA samples saved for me to experiment with," Kabuto explained. "You still stole it," Naruto retorted as he started to channel chakra into his hands. Odama Rasengan. Naruto created another massive ball of chakra in his hands that he slammed against the oncoming crystal branches, shattering them instantly. He then slammed the orb against the main crystal, causing it to shatter on impact as well. Shards began to fly throughout the roof, most of which landing on the ground. Naruto turned his attention back to Kabuto. Before the blonde could think of what to do, a memory just developed in his head, the last memories of his shadow clones that he sent to keep his students safe. His eyes widened. What the hell were my clones thinking? 10-finger drilling bullets. Wind style, drilling air bullets. As Kabuto launched another barrage of bone bullets from his finger grips, Naruto exhaled multiple bullets of wind that launched into the air. The two shinobi proceeded to jump away from each other's attacks before continuing a second round of their attacks. The two remained at a distance, attacking each other with their jutsu while narrowly avoiding their attacks. Naruto's eyes were starting to narrow more as Kabuto kept barely avoiding getting hit. "I've almost got him. I just need to attack faster," he realized. "I need to decisively hit him and fast before Naruto's eyes widened in panic as Kabuto, after avoiding another barrage of air bullets, turned his head to the left and swiped his hand, launching a barrage of finger bullets. On cue, Hanabi, Katsumi, and Kanji proceeded to jump onto the top of the roof, directly in the line of fire of Kabuto's attack. "No!" Naruto immediately a hand sign. Fuinjutsu, protective winds. The seals on the backs of the 3 genin started to glow a light blue color before wind escaped from them, completely encasing them in wind. Kabuto's bone bullets attempted to strike at them, but the wind managed to parry the bones right back at the silver-haired shinobi. He moved to the right, avoiding his own attack. "Hey! I told you 3 to get out of here! This isn't safe, damn it!" Naruto shouted at them. "And it's not safe for you to be facing a guy like this by yourself, Naruto-sensei," Katsumi replied. "You need backup. That hasn't been decided yet. What I need for you 3, though, is to be safe." the Uzumaki shouted. Get out of here! Naruto-sensei, if there's anything we can do to help you, we will do it. We're not leaving you alone, Hanabi replied, crossing her arms. The snake on her shoulder nodded his head in agreement. Naruto-sensei, don't try and argue with us, Kanji replied as he started making hand signs. We're put together as a team for a reason. You can't just leave us to the side and fight for us. If we can do anything, we'll do anything. That's what a team does. We're supposed to stick together and fight together. Heh. Kabuto proceeded to chuckle. You Konoha shinobi are all the same. There's something so naively sweet about your suicidal behavior. Naruto's eyes turned back to Kabuto. They narrowed in rage. It's not suicidal. I'm not going to let you even touch my students. Oh? A smirk developed on his face. We'll see about that. Lightning style, thunderbolt. Kanji immediately extended his hands, releasing a wave of lightning from it that rushed at Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi moved to the side, avoiding the attack. He then rushed forward towards the genin. Katsumi immediately began to run through hand signs. Earth style, rising rock jutsu. A large boulder rose up from the ground directly in front of Kabuto. He proceeded to jump into the air, effortlessly evading it. As he was in the air, the snake around Hanabi's shoulder proceeded to untangle itself and extend its mouth towards Kabuto's body. Kanji noticed the snake's actions and made the same hand signs as before. Water style, gunshot. Lightning style, thunderbolt. As Hebihiro unleashed a massive ball of water from his mouth, Kanji proceeded to release another wave of lightning bolts that connected with the water. The large ball of water, now surrounded with electricity, flew in the air towards Kabuto. A smirk developed on his lips as he created another large sphere of fire in his hands. He launched the sphere of fire directly at the approaching water, causing it to rupture and explode. Huh! Did he just destroy that attack with water? Katsumi questioned, her eyes narrowed. Shouldn't that have been impossible? Good thing that wasn't just any type of fire. That was a Kekkai Genkai. Kabuto answered with a smirk as he landed directly behind the girl. Kabuto's right hand became completely encased in blue chakra, resembling a scalpel. He slowly lowered it onto her just as she was turning her head towards him. Odama Rasengan! Before his attack could connect, Naruto jumped directly in between him and his student, a massive orb of chakra into his hands. Naruto slammed the orb directly into Kabuto's stomach. The force of Naruto's jutsu sent Kabuto flying backwards, the orb of chakra moving alongside him, creating an almost typhoon of chakra around Kabuto's body. What did I tell you? You're not laying a hand on my students! Naruto shouted. A few seconds passed before the spiral of chakra faded away. Kabuto stood there with more of his clothes completely blown off and bleeding from a large wound in his chest. The shinobi proceeded to walk forward. You know, Naruto-san, you reminded me of a bad habit just then. I tend to really enjoy playing around whenever I fight. I got a bit too focused on your students and toying with them that I forgot about you. Kabuto noted, chuckling. Thankfully, I have the Shikatsumiyaku and the benefits it gives to keeping my body in better condition than it should normally be. However, I really need to be more careful, lest you hit me with something that would genuinely kill me. Naruto started to grit his teeth together. Why won't you die already? I told you, Naruto-san. I'm not here to kill you, so I'm not going to let you do the same. I'm just here to see what you are capable of. Kabuto replied with a smile. Although at this rate, I should be wrapping things up. Have anything else you or your genin would like to show me before I have to leave? Naruto's response was to run through another series of hand signs. Wind style, great cast net. Temari swung her fan, creating gusts of winds in the shape of a giant net. Raza brought his hands together, creating a barrier of gold dust that surrounded himself. The wind sliced into the gold dust, cutting it from different angles, but they were unable to fully pierce it. Raza proceeded to extend his hand, causing the gold dust to rocket forward in a pillar formation at Temari's body. She was immediately pulled away from the attack by Kankuro, who directed the Komori puppet to fly lower. As Temari flew downwards, the bat head of the puppet proceeded to open its mouth, releasing a barrage of saban. Raza moved to his side, avoiding the weapons, before making hand signs. A large cloud of gold dust begins to develop in the sky. Raza's hand signs continue, causing the cloud to grow larger and larger. Temari swings her fan once again at Raza, creating more gusts of wind aimed at him. Gaara crosses his hands, causing two pillars of sand to rush at Raza. Both attacks manage to hit the Yondaime Kazekage, the combined effects of both destroying Raza's body, both crushing it and cutting it into pieces. Within seconds, however, the body reforms, leaving the man unharmed again. The large cloud of gold dust in the sky, seemingly unaffected by the temporary destruction of Raza's body, continues to grow. Gaara, Temari, focus your attention on the cloud, not me, Raza warned. If I finish this jutsu sand hail, wind style, great task of the dragon. Temari swung her fan upwards, creating a few traces of wind that flew upward. At the same time, Gaara created a sand cloud himself that floated directly underneath Raza's gold dust cloud. The sand cloud proceeded to release large sand balls that were launched upward against the gold dust. The dust, however, resisted the impact and remained sturdy. A few seconds passed by before a massive tornado began to descend from the sky, Temari's jutsu having finished its preparation. The tornado slammed against the gold dust cloud from above while Gaara's sand boulders struck it from below. The gold dust, however, remained stable, not breaking apart. Shit! I put too much chakra into this, Raza realized, shaking his head. You two need to be careful and survive this attack. He closes his eyes, almost afraid to see what was going to happen. Gold dust apocalypse! The giant cloud of gold dust proceeded to release massive barrages of gold dust that moved through the sky, both in the shape and with the speed of lightning bolts. Both Gaara and Temari barely avoided the first two bolts of gold dust from the sky aimed for them. As they tried to dodge more, a blast from one of them managed to connect with Komori's head, the impact of the attack shattering the whole puppet's body instantly. The kunoichi's eyes widened as she started to fall to the ground. Temari! Gaara shouted as he immediately flew to her side. The Godain Kazekage caught his sister before forming a sand wall behind them. The gold dust bolts continued to strike at them, causing the sand to falter. Gaara bit his lip and started to sweat as he kept applying more sand and chakra to the sand around him. Gaara! Protect Kankuro as well, Raza shouted. Gaara's eyes widened at his father's declaration. Immediately, he saw another stray bolt of gold dust flying downwards the building where Kankuro had been. Still clutching onto his sister, Gaara's body flew directly towards the building. The sand that had surrounded him and his sister reached Kankuro's body just in time. Gaara landed on the building as well and channeled the sand to form a protective barrier around the three. Gaara! Temari! Are you okay? Kankuro asked. His eyes were wide and he was breathing quite heavily, still in recovery from nearly getting struck from his father's attack. We're fine, Temari replied, frowning. Gaara, can you still withstand his attack? Gaara did not reply, only biting his lip harder as he applied more chakra to his defense. His sand began to change shape as it hardened further and further, trying to resist Raza's jutsu. Sand quickly surrounded his body, as well as the body of Kankuro and Temari. Raza started to float downward, as his bolts of gold dust continued to strike downward. His eyes widened as he lowered to the building's roof. From the sky, it looked like a giant figure of sand keeping Gaara and his siblings safe. Up close, however, Raza could see its true shape. The sand had taken the form of a woman. Karura! Raza mumbled. There was no mistaking it. Gaara had subconsciously created the image of his mother and Raza's wife to protect him. The sand's arms surrounding them were like the embrace of a mother, keeping her children safe from harm. Karura, even beyond the grave, you're keeping your children safe. You're keeping Gaara safe. Raza realized. It's not Shikaka that keeps you safe. It's your mother, she is what a parent should be like. A second passed by as the gold dust cloud in the sky started to dissipate. With the bolts of gold dust no longer striking at him, the sand quickly fell to the side. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro turned their attention towards their father, preparing for his next attack. Raza was now standing on the building, but he was not attacking. Tears had filled his lifeless eyes. Gaara, Temari, Kankuro. The Yondaime Kazekage started to speak. I have no right to be called your father, but I am so proud of all three of you. His body was turning white and full pieces of his body were starting to fall apart. The three siblings were staring at him in surprise. I entrust the safety of Sunagakure to you all. Keep this village safe, regardless of whatever threats the world may bring, Raza told them sharply. His eyes then focused on Gaara. Gaara, with all my heart, I am sorry for all the suffering I have caused you. You have no reason to forgive me and I do not expect you to. I am the one who cursed you with Shikaku. I am the one who ordered Yashimaru to attack you and lie about your mother's love as a way to test you. But you have grown strong. Your mother would be proud of you. Mother? Gaara repeated the word, his eyes widening even further. His eyes started to water up slightly. Karura loved you. She loved all of you. And even now, she still watches all over you. Raza's tears started to dry up as a smile developed on his lips. Gaara, keep your brother and sister safe. As I know they will keep you safe. Cherish the connections you've made. You're Kazekage now, you've done so much despite all that I have done to you. More of Raza's body began to fall apart. His voice became slower. It was as if he was struggling to speak. Live, Gaara. Live the life of happiness that I deprived you of, the life you deserved. With those words, Raza's body finished its deconstruction. All traces of Raza had vanished. All that remained was a corpse that was completely encased in dust. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro stood on the building, simply staring at the dust that had just been their father. Both Temari and Kankuro had tears in their eyes as they tried to rationalize what had just happened. They then turned their attention to their younger brother. Gaara? Kankuro's eyes widened. Unlike his siblings, who only just had tears, Gaara was openly sobbing quietly to himself. Immediately, the three siblings had pulled each other into a quiet embrace as Gaara, for the first time in years, let out all the tears and feelings he had deep in his heart. As Kabuto avoided another one of Naruto's jutsu, his eyes widened. A frown developed on his lips as he could no longer feel the presence of the Yondaime Kazekage in Suna. I was actually hoping that he would have been able to kill the Ichibi Jinchuriki. It was a long shot, yeah, but I was hoping for that to be a minor inconvenience for Akatsuki. Kabuto's frown deepened. However, I'm most concerned about how his soul left this world. They didn't seal him away. Is it really possible for a soul to be released from the Edo Tensei from emotions or closure? Dynamic entry! Kabuto's thoughts were interrupted at the sound of a loud declaration and the presence of the other two Konoha shinobi. Lee was directly in front of his face, delivering a kick straight to his stomach. The silver-haired shinobi was unable to get away and was knocked back to the edge of the roof of the mansion. Tenten landed on the roof directly next to Lee and tossed multiple shuriken at Kabuto. He proceeded to create a bone-like knife out of the palm of his hand and parry the shuriken. Sorry for the delay in arrival, Naruto-san. We can assist from here on out, Lee declared. That's that creep Kabuto, right? The spy that had been in Konoha? Tenten questioned, her eyes narrowed. It is. Naruto nodded his head. We need to make sure he dies today. Yeah. That's not happening. Kabuto shook his head. He proceeded to chuckle a little bit. Well, Naruto-san, this was fun. And I'm happy I got a chance to see where you are at. I don't know if this came off as well to you, but I do see you as an incredibly strong shinobi. You seem as capable as I am. A smirk then developed on his face. Then again, I wasn't actively trying to kill you. So who knows? You think you're just gonna get away? Naruto snarled. I know I am. Kabuto stated with a smirk. But I genuinely appreciate this. This was useful for me. I also got the chance to experiment with a few of the Kekkei Genkai I have acquired. I promise you that the next time we fight I'll have better control of them. With those words, Kabuto proceeded to turn around and jump off the mansion. Naruto immediately started to run behind. Naruto-sensei. Hanabi called out to him. There's not gonna be another time. You die tonight. Naruto shouted as he chased him. Upon landing on the ground, Kabuto started to rush away, towards the mountains that surround the village. Naruto landed on the ground and followed behind. He could still see Kabuto in his line of sight. The Uzumaki proceeded to raise his palm at the shinobi. Adamantine sealing chain. Immediately, a large chain developed from Naruto's palm and rushed forward towards Kabuto's body. The silver-haired shinobi was unable to get away as the chain quickly reached him and encircled his body. He tried to resist, but was unable to pull himself out. Naruto took the opportunity to rush over to him. So, you learned how to manipulate the sealing chains. Quite interesting. Kabuto grumbled as he continued to try and pull himself out of the chains. Just as sturdy as I heard they were. They were what your clan was known for, other than Fuinjutsu of course. Damn right they were. It took a while, but I did manage to get a hold of it. And it looks like it's paying off already. Naruto stated. He tightened the grip on the chain, causing it to get tighter on Kabuto. Now it's all over. Since I already got you immobilized, I'll make sure to keep you alive so Gaara can meet you and learn from the source exactly what you did here in his village. Kabuto immediately stopped struggling against the chain. He, instead, looked directly at Naruto in the eye and smiled. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Naruto-san, but that's not going to happen. I'm impressed you can use your sealing chains, and I'm impressed, but they're not going to be able to stop me, he said sharply. Before Naruto could reply to that, a giant red and black striped snake appeared from underneath the ground, directly below Naruto. The blonde jumped away in time, but the momentary distraction proved enough for Kabuto to pull himself out of Naruto's control. Within seconds he managed to squirm his way out of the chain without Naruto able to apply force. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki's eyes narrowed as he raised his left hand. Another adamantine chain flew out, towards Kabuto, as he started to yell at the man. When the hell did you summon that snake? Before Naruto's chain could manage to hit him, the snake opened its jaw and swallowed Kabuto's body whole. The snake then dug itself under the ground before Naruto's jutsu could manage to him. I summoned him before the battle even started. Call it my insurance if you will. Despite being underground in the belly of the snake, Kabuto's voice boomed loudly above ground. I already told you, Naruto-san, I wasn't here to kill or be killed. A scowl developed on Naruto's face. He debated about following the snake into the tunnel it dug to search for it, but he shook his head. He was unaware if Kabuto had any more insurance plans that could make any efforts useless. With a sigh, the red chakra surrounding Naruto's body faded away, returning his feral features back to normal. You're safe for now, Kabuto, but mark my words. I will find you again and I'll make sure you pay for everything you've done, he stated sharply. Believe me, I'll be looking forward to that day, Naruto-san. Just make sure you don't die to Akatsuki. I believe that they have big plans for you and the other Jinchuriki soon. Do your best to live, Kabuto stated. By the way, Naruto-san, your adamantine chains interested me. Perhaps I should acquire them sometime. The Uzumaki scoffed. Fat chance. You're not getting access to any Uzumaki DNA if I have any say in it. Kabuto's laugh sounded throughout the desert. How naive of you to assume I don't already have some. I obtained a whole body to experiment on when I left Konoha last. I have an entire Uzumaki corpse to experiment, a complete set of Uzumaki DNA to incorporate into my own. The Jonin's eyes widened. What? Whose DNA do you have? It doesn't matter, does it, Naruto-san? There's not like there's a lot of Uzumaki corpses in Konoha to have stolen, Kabuto replied. Regardless, I think it's time I get out of here. Make sure you survive against Akatsuki, Naruto-san. Wait, Kabuto! Whose body did you take? Naruto shouted. He received no reply. A few seconds passed by before he felt it was confirmed. Yakushi Kabuto was no longer there. Damn it! There's only a few Uzumaki shinobi buried in Konoha. There's a realistic chance that he... Damn it! Naruto inwardly growled. He better not have my mom's body. It was only a thought, but it was one that completely revolted him. Naruto's eyes narrowed in the direction towards the exit of Suna. He was uncertain if Kabuto had managed to get away or not. He gritted his teeth as he shook his head. Today, Kabuto, you got away. Today, you got to do your little experiment and see how strong I was. The next time we meet, I'll be stronger. And the next time, I will fucking kill you. Chapter 66. Moving Forward. Yakushi Kabuto, huh? Gaara crossed his arms as he closed his eyes in thought. He, his siblings, Naruto, Lee, and Tenten were sitting down in the Kazekage's office. The window was open, giving the room some slight natural lighting from the rising sun. I don't know how much you knew of him, Naruto said. I know that you all had worked with Otogekure and Orochimaru during the invasion of Konoha, but I don't really know what your relationship was with Orochimaru or if you even knew who Kabuto was. I mean, we knew of him somewhat. Kankuro spoke, frowning. What we knew of him was that he was Orochimaru's go-to-errand boy. We were told he was a spy and that was in the Chunin exams to observe, so we were told not to engage at all costs. He visited our hotel often to chat with Baki though, Temari offered. He was polite but came off incredibly fake. Which obviously he was, since he was a spy. Naruto. Gaara opened his eyes and looked at his fellow Jinchuriki. What you just told us is incredibly concerning, especially how he was able to acquire the Kekkei Genkai of Pakura. He had only just taken that body, didn't he? Tenten asked, frowning. That means he doesn't need to have a lot of research time to obtain the Kekkei Genkai from bodies. And that's also not touching on his ability to perform the Edo Tensei. Gaara added. Having our father attack Suna was troublesome. It is now seemingly possible that Kabuto would be able to do this with any deceased shinobi if he had access to their body. Imagine if he were able to raise an army at some point of all the strongest shinobi from history. Kankuro mumbled. There was a pregnant pause that overtook the room. It was finally broken as Lee proceeded to cough. This is a legitimate risk that all shinobi villages need to be aware of, he said simply. Gaara nodded his head in agreement as he pulled out a scroll. He immediately began to write in it. We need to spread this information. I'm going to send warning to all shinobi villages. This is not a threat that anyone should take lightly. The Kazekage noted. This is something that every village should be able to agree upon. I do not want Kabuto grave robbing my village again to steal Kekkei Genkai, and I'm sure that other villages do not want the same. I can't imagine any village actually rejecting such information. Tenten noted. Obviously Konoha will understand and try and take more precautions to keep bodies safe. Kiri and Iwa should follow suit as well, and the minor villages like Taki and Kusa would also be willing to take similar precautions. Kankuro pursed his lips. I noticed you did not say Kumo. Tenten said nothing. The room grew quiet once again. Gaara took a moment to collect his thoughts on the subject as well. Kumobikure, the only asterisk to Tenten's statement. The village hidden within the clouds had not taken the news well that the other great shinobi villages were starting to increase communication and cooperation. The increased hostility in diplomacy and interaction with Kumobikure shinobi in Rai no Kuni has put a strain on their relationship with the opposing villages. Kumo and the Yandame Reikage has placed a lot of value on Kekkei Genkai. Lee finally spoke with a frown. It's why they were involved in unethical behavior to obtain them. I'm certain that they will at least take this information into consideration. Naruto developed a frown of his own as he shook his head, more than unethical. Kumogakure tried to kidnap Hinata-chan. Still, the frown on his face grew deeper. Still, it's not fair to judge the whole village for that one act. Plus, it would be terrifying for Kabuto to have access to their graves and get any powers they had and powers that they had stolen. I'm going to send a letter to the Yandame Reikage. Gaara spoke as he continued writing in his scroll. If he does not respond, then I'll simply speak to him in person during the Chunin exams. He will have to at least acknowledge the threat of Kabuto. I'm sure your Godame will also be acting, Temari said. He definitely will, Naruto exclaimed. However, he needs to know about all of this stuff right away, and although I could send a toad, there's some things I'd like to talk about in person with him. And since my Genin team has finished the mission we came here for, we're actually going to be leaving back for Konoha today. Completely understood. Gaara nodded his head. I assume you will be leaving in a few hours. Yeah. I'm just letting them get some sleep. We should be out no later than 10 o'clock, if even that, Naruto said with a shrug. He then turned to face Lee and Tenten. I know you two are doing some kind of mission to help with Suna-Konoha relations, so I suspect you'll still be staying here. We should. My apologies, Naruto-kun. Lee bowed his head. This caused the blonde to chuckle slightly. Hey, it's a mission. I don't care. We'll return to Konoha as well, probably in about a week, Tenten said. You can give an initial report to Hokage-sama that the mission is going well and that I think we're making an impression on the Suna Academy students. You both are, and thank you for that, Temari added, smiling. Both Tenten and Lee shared a look with each other, grinning, feeling pleased with themselves. Regardless, Naruto, if you're going back today, you should get some rest, Gaara suggested. Get some sleep. I can tell you haven't gotten any in a little while. As if on cue, the blonde proceeded to yawn. Possibly. I might try and take an hour nap, he said, shrugging his shoulders. I don't really want to sleep too long though, cause once my students get up and get ready, I'd like to be on the road. Then go back and get your rest, Kankuro stated, chuckling slightly. You need some form of sleep. We can talk before you leave again, Naruto. Just rest for now, Gaara told him. Yeah. Naruto yawned again as he started to walk towards the door. He waved goodbye before leaving. It was going to be a long day, after all. Any rest he could get would be necessary. You're here on time. Good. Come in. Niji nodded his head as he walked into the Uzumaki clan sealing hall, following Masakato. His hands began to fidget with his forehead protector as his eyes started to wander the room slightly. The room's walls were painted a dark green color and had the Uzumaki clan symbol painted in dark blue on all four corners of the wall. Along the walls, underneath the spirals, were hanging scrolls that depicted four different individuals: Uzumaki Mito, wife of the Shodai Hokage; Uzumaki Rei, the Shodai Yuzukage; Uzumaki Kanji, the Naidame Yuzukage; and a man that represented the Rikudo Sennin. The room itself had no windows. A dim light, emitted from two seals on the ceiling, kept the room from being consumed in darkness. Outside of the walls, the room was bare. The only thing in the room was a large green mat in the center of the room. Such a simple room, but it seems to emit a sense of power just being here. Niji noted. This is my own personal sealing chamber, although I suppose Naruto could use it if he really needed to. I normally spend my time here working on a personal project of mine, but I'm inviting you in here for today. Masakato answered. His eyebrow rose slightly as he studied the Hyuga. Did you get good sleep last night? Eat something? Believe me, we are going to be in this room all day. Potentially longer. Are you ready for this? I've been waiting for this moment for as long as I can remember. Niji answered as he started to untie his forehead protector, revealing his cursed seal. This can change the life of every branch family Hyuga and the direction of our clan altogether. That is true. The Uzumaki nodded his head in agreement. Then we will begin. Please lay down on your back on the sealing mat. Niji walked over to the mat on the ground and proceeded to lay down. Masakato walked over to him and pulled out a scroll and a pen from his pockets. He laid down on the ground, right next to Niji's head. As you are aware, this seal that was placed on you was placed on your brain, he stated. As a result, I will have to be especially careful when applying this new seal onto you. Every stroke will take me at least 30 minutes to an hour. While this seal could potentially endanger your life, I am going to be cautious to maximize the likelihood of your survival and the success. I understand. Niji spoke. Masakato uncapped his pen. He opened up the sealing scroll and began to analyze the notes that he had previously written. His eyes closed slightly as he began to lift his seals and practice brush strokes with his pen. Chakra began to flow through his body to his right hand and into the pen itself. Father, watch over me. Wish me luck. Niji closed his eyes in prayer. With this moment, I am choosing my own destiny. 10 o'clock came quickly. Naruto and his genin team gathered their belongings and quickly left the Kazekage's mansion. They proceeded to arrive at the gate to Sunagakure. Gaara was standing there, eyeing the Konoha shinobi. Yo! Naruto waved his hand to the Kazekage. Thanks for letting us stay at your place, Gaara. While I wish the time could have been better, it was awesome to see you again. And it's especially awesome to see that you're the frickin' Kazekage. It was an honor to see you too, Naruto. I wish that the time was not so chaotic, but I am pleased you were able to assist us while you were here. Gaara replied, bowing slightly. His eyes then moved to his genin team. It was an honor to meet you three as well. I know that the three of you will make excellent shinobi in time. We'll try, Kazekage-sama. Hanabi bowed, smiling. Please, I feel like I told you all. No need to be formal. Just call me Gaara from now on, he replied. Well, okay then. It was nice meeting you, Gaara, Katsumi replied, smiling impishly at the man. Next time you see us, we'll be at the Chunin exams and we'll impress the hell out of you. I don't recall saying anything about the Chunin exams. Naruto frowned slightly, but kept the comment to himself. I look forward to it, the Godame Kazekage said. He then turned his attention back to Naruto as he reached into his robe and pulled out a scroll. If you would not mind giving this to your Hokage, Naruto. Of course. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki grabbed the scroll and pocketed it. First thing I'll do when I get back. Gaara extended his hand out to Naruto. A smile developed on the blonde's face as he took it, shaking his hand. See you again, Gaara. Show this village how awesome of a Kazekage you are, Naruto informed him. I will, Gaara replied, smiling back. You keep doing well yourself. I intend to see you with the Hokage's hat at some point. Oh, you will? The Uzumaki chuckled. I'm not gonna let myself fall behind you for too long. With those words, the Konoha shinobi departed from Suna. The Kazekage remained at the gate, waving goodbye to them as they disappeared. The time in Sunagakure was a hectic time, but the Konoha shinobi were grateful to have stayed in Gaara's mansion and stay with him and his family. They were all already looking forward to when they would see him again next. Alright, let's end it here, Shikamaru suggested. Both Hinata and Dosu nodded their heads in agreement. Since none of the three shinobi had any missions, they had agreed to meet at Training Ground 17 for some basic training, which consisted of exercise, sparring, and jutsu practice and experimentation. They managed to stay training for 5 hours before they called it a day. You know, Dosu, I am impressed with the additions to your fighting style, Shikamaru stated as he eyed the melody braces that were attached to the former Odo shinobi's ankles. I'm surprised it took you this long to finally implement some type of sound modification device on your feet. I had to build these braces. It took a while to make a pair that would amplify sound without dragging down my overall speed. Dosu replied simply. But I'm glad it got working, finally. It makes you tougher. The Nara noted with a smirk. Maybe tough enough to seek out that overdue Jonin promotion? Possibly. Dosu replied, chuckling lightly. Regardless, I worked up an appetite after the sparring. Would you two like to go get something to eat? I'm down. Shikamaru replied as he put his hands in his pockets. What about you, Hinata? The Hyuga heiress looked over at her friends in confusion. Did one of you say something? Both Shikamaru and Dosu frowned in response. Are you alright, Hinata? You've been rather spacey today. Shikamaru noted. Something on your mind. I'm alright. I'm just. Hinata sighed. Today's the day of Niji and Ai-san's sealing. Oh? Dosu's eyes widened slightly in realization. So, Masakato-san has finished that seal he has been working on for your family. Yes, but it's admittedly rather risky to implement. There's a chance that it could do some serious harm to Niji and Ai-san's brain if he puts it on incorrectly. The Hyuga heiress noted, frowning. I trust Masakato-san to not take a risk he wouldn't be comfortable with, but I can't help but be nervous. I don't want anything to happen to Niji and Ai-san. It's fair to be concerned, but I wouldn't stress too much about it. The former Odogekure shinobi noted. Your cousin obviously feels like the seal will be successful. I agree, but I also can't help but think he might just be taking a risk in hopes that the seal works. If it does, it will help both of us with accomplishing our dream of uniting the Hyuga clan. Hinata stated. So, I think Niji and Ai-san might be trusting that it will work out of hope that it will work rather than whether or not he thinks it will work. Hinata, you said it yourself. Masakato would not do anything that would put Niji at any unnecessary risk. Shikamaru spoke. I get that you're worried for him, but you've got to trust both of them. Masakato will not do anything to harm Niji, and Niji understands the risks. He'll be fine. I know. The kunoichi sighed again. It's just stressful waiting for the results, I guess. Let's eat then. So we can help you de-stress some more. Shikamaru offered. Yakiniku anyone? I'm down for some barbecue. Whatever you two want is fine. I'll find something to eat anywhere. Dosu shrugged his shoulders. That sounds lovely to me, Hinata said. The three shinobi began to walk away from the training ground back towards the village center. They walked at a rather leisurely pace as they walked past civilians and shinobi along the way. Wonder when Naruto and Anko will be back from their missions, Shikamaru wondered. Naruto-kun's mission shouldn't take too much longer, to be honest. It's only a supply delivery to Suna from what I recall. He should be back maybe in a few days, Hinata offered. Anko-sensei, though, who knows? Her missions in Kiri sometimes can take forever. I wonder why, Dosu mumbled. Shikamaru turned his attention to his friend. You know something? Not officially, but I have a theory about something, he replied. The Nara rolled his eyes. And your theory is? That Anko Taishu and Zabuza-san have a thing for each other, Dosu answered. Both Hinata's and Shikamaru's eyes widened as they stared at their friend in surprise. They were quiet for a moment, processing it, before they both started to laugh loudly. I have no idea where you came to that conclusion, but I hope that's true. Shikamaru snickered. They're both sadists. They're perfect for each other. They'd be so cute together. I hope you're right about that, Hinata exclaimed. It's just a theory of mine, but I've always noticed that they have chemistry, and I find it rather suspicious that he's the one who always comes by to pick up Anko for missions in Kiri. Dosu stated with a light chuckle. Who knows, though? The trio continued to laugh as they discussed Anko's potential relationship status along the way to Yakiniku. It was a light-hearted topic and it cleared up Hinata's mind. For the first time since the morning, Hinata was able to rest and not stress about Niji and the ceiling. Along the countryside of Mizuno-kuni, 3 members of the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure were walking down the countryside of Mizuno-kuni. They were approximately 1 day away from arriving at the gates of Kirigakure. The trio walked in silence until one of them felt their nose start to rustle. Achoo! Anko sneezed loudly. Getting sick, Anko-san? Kahayo questioned. If you are, stay far away from me. I hate getting sick. Zabuza grumbled, crossing his arms. I'd rather take a kunai to the back than catch a fucking cold. I'm not getting sick, don't worry. I think some bastard is talking about me if I had to guess. Anko grumbled. Alright, this seems like a good spot. Let's set up camp for tonight here. Naruto sighed as he dropped his bags down. Naruto's genin did as he instructed and dropped their bags as well. They then proceeded to quietly start getting their sleeping bags out and getting prepared for the evening. Naruto watched the group with a small frown on his face. His genin squad had, for the most part, been quiet along the way ever since they left Sunagakure. The Uzumaki did not particularly enjoy the silence, but let it last for a while. Now that they were stopped for the night, though he was not so content with it. So, you 3 upset about something or you all just have something on your mind? The Jonin asked as he sat down on the ground. The 3 genin, as if on cue, stiffened at his words. They all turned to face their sensei. Naruto's eyes moved across the faces of each of his students. Both Hanabi and Katsumi had rather nervous looks on their faces while Kanji had a neutral, almost tired look on his. Come on guys. It's me. Naruto said with a light chuckle. I'm not gonna bite your heads off. What you thinking about? Are you really certain that we are going to grow to your level one day? Katsumi finally spoke up. The Uzumaki tilted his head. Where'd that come from? From that situation with that Kabuto guy, she answered, crossing her arms as she started to frown. It felt like we were deadweight there. I know we weren't there for the whole thing, but it seemed as if the seals your clones put on us is the only reason we're alive. Kanji finished. Naruto sighed. The Uzumaki shook his head as he closed his eyes, taking a moment to collect his words. Yakushi Kabuto is an incredibly dangerous missing shinobi. While I don't know his rank in the bingo book, I'd be willing to bet he's at least high A rank, if not an S rank shinobi. Naruto spoke. I wouldn't what? Katsumi spoke up, her frown turning into a scowl. Compare ourselves to him? It's kinda hard when we got into a fight with the guy. It's demoralizing, to be honest. Hanabi spoke, looking down. The Uzumaki shook his head once again. He took in a deep breath as he opened his eyes and gave his students a sharp look. If it bothers you that much, then quit, he stated. Excuse me? Hanabi mumbled, her eyes widening. I said quit? The Uzumaki repeated. If it bothers you that much, then quit. The shinobi lifestyle might not be the correct path for you, if you're that afraid of a shinobi that's only currently stronger than you. Katsumi's scowl seemed to deepen. So you think we should quit? I didn't say that. Naruto interrupted, his eyes focusing on her. I said if that's what you genuinely feel, then quit. But that's not what I am telling you all to do. Then what are you trying to tell us? Kanji questioned. Naruto grabbed the shirt underneath his Konoha flak jacket and held it forward. He showed off the kanji on it, the kanji for the number 3. On my first C-rank mission, my squad ended up in a fight with 2 missing shinobi in Tsuchi no Kuni, one of them an upper A-rank shinobi and the other an S-rank shinobi. They were merciless and nearly killed me and my team. One of the only reasons we all ended up surviving was because I lost control of the Kyuubi, and it was able to fight and kill off one of the missing shinobi. Naruto spoke. I didn't really talk much about it with my squad at the time. A lot of things were happening all at once then on that mission, but it was pretty scary knowing how close we all were to dying. Naruto's grip on his shirt grew tighter. A small smirk developed on his face as he looked down at the kanji on it. But in the end, I still persevered and stayed true to who I am. I grew stronger. And I was able to use that as motivation to get my stronger. My Jonin sensei, Mitarashi Anko, used that experience as a motivator to push me and my team through harder training and toughen us up even more. We became strong like that, so something like that could never happen to us. Nothing like that ever did and nothing like that ever will. And the same thing is true for you 3. Naruto finally let go of his shirt. He looked at his 3 students, and his smirk dropped into a more gentle smile. You 3 are great shinobi. I refuse to hear otherwise, he exclaimed. Katsumi, you already knew Earth-style ninjutsu before I even met you while you were just an academy student. Kanji, you have a great mastery of your clan's techniques and have a great strategic mind that can get developed even more. And Hanabi, you graduated 2 years earlier than you were expected to. You're great with your clan's signature techniques, especially with your modifications with Hebihiro. All 3 of you are excellent for genin, and as you get older and stronger and train harder, you'll get even better and better. I don't want you all to be constantly afraid of stronger enemies. There will always be stronger ones out there. But that's your motivation to always get stronger yourself and to keep training, so you can fight them off. 'Cause in the end, you all do have the one trait I'd love in all shinobi. You have the will of fire. Naruto stated. He brought his hand up to his Konoha forehead protector. You knew that Kabuto was out of your league and still came back because you were worried about me, a comrade and fellow shinobi of Konoha. I don't agree with how you 3 got into the fight. I would have been more careful, and I want you all to exercise more caution when you fight stronger enemies, but I agree with that mindset. You all have had the desire to protect your comrades as the most valuable thing to have, and how I know all 3 of you will be amazing shinobi. Katsumi, Kanji, and Hanabi were silent as they looked at their Jonin-sensei. Hanabi and Katsumi both had wide eyes on their faces as they stared at him in awe. Kanji had a more neutral expression as he brought his hands to his face and thought. I've been overwhelmed a lot over this whole journey with all the stronger Suna shinobi and that Kabuto guy. Katsumi broke silence, as her surprise morphed into a large smile. But you're right, Naruto-sensei. I'm going to work harder to make sure that never happens. Naruto-sensei. Hanabi spoke up. She clapped her hands together as she looked at him expectantly, a smile developing on her lips. You said your Jonin-sensei made your team go through a much harsher training regime after your mission. I assume you'll do the same for us? You better! Katsumi exclaimed, pounding her fists together. Give us anything you got, we can take it. I know you all can. Naruto said, smiling at his students. And believe me, I'm going to be utterly ruthless. The blonde then stood up and proceeded to look around their campsite. But for now, let's get a fire going, some food cooked, and then hit the bed so we can get back to Konoha. His 3 genin immediately got up and started following his suggestion. Naruto watched them gather wood for fire and set up camp in much brighter spirits. A smile developed on his lips as he watched them. It was genuinely surprising to him how good it felt to be a Jonin-sensei. A loud knock sounded on Hinata's door, alerting her. The Hyuga heiress was about to fall to sleep when the noise reverberated throughout her bedroom. She proceeded to get out of bed and inch closer to the door. Who is it? She questioned. It's a bit late for someone to stop by. Maybe it's Dash. Her eyes widened as the thought developed in her head. She immediately activated her Byakugan to see beyond her door. Outside of her room stood both her father and Niji. She immediately opened her door and stepped outside to greet them, her eyes focused on her cousin. The Branch Clan family member was holding onto his forehead protector in his right hand. His forehead, however, was changed. Directly surrounding the green cage bird seal was a blue-colored seal in the shape of a flame that connected all of the lines of the old seal, the exact seal that Masakato had shown the trio prior. Niji and Ai-san. A large smile was on Hinata's face as her eyes focused on the seal. It worked, right? Right. In response, Niji simply smiled. He then turned to his uncle. Hayashi-sama, if you could demonstrate for Hinata. Hayashi nodded his head and immediately brought his hand into a single hand sign. His eyes narrowed as he started to apply chakra. Niji, however, had no reaction whatsoever. He felt no physical pain in the slightest. After a few seconds of trying, Hayashi finally brought his hand back down. A large smile, one larger than Hinata had ever seen on her father, developed on his lips. As you can see, Hinata, it's not working. The negative side effects of the seal are no longer there. Hayashi stated. I am free. Niji stated simply, his eyes moving upward as tears began to fall. Father, the cage is finally open. Hinata quickly reached forward and pulled her cousin into a tight hug, which he returned. Tears of her own began to develop, which only caused her to tighten her embrace of Niji. Niji and Ai-san. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you, Hinata exclaimed. This is it! This is how we unite the Hyuga clan! The actual physical task has been completed, Niji noted as the two cousins broke their embrace. All that's left now is the final steps. The final step to uniting the clan, getting Hinata marked with her own new seal and then proving to the elders of the clan the benefits of uniting the clan together. This is a radical change in our family's dynamic, so I alone can't make this decision. The elders of the clan need to also approve, Hayashi noted. They, particularly Yashikane, are a traditional group and will be hard to sway. Grandfather. Hinata frowned at her father's use of his name. Having said that, I believe you two are strong enough to sway the feelings of the clan as a whole. Hinata and Niji, as I have said multiple times to you both, you two have become some of the strongest shinobi our clan has ever produced. Present yourselves strongly to them and they will accept this decision. I'm certain of it, Hayashi declared. When should we confront the elders? Niji questioned. I would say to wait until Hanabi returns to the village. She should be told the news first, Hayashi said. When she returns, I would like to set up a meeting between the elders no later than a day or two from then. Understood. Both cousins nodded their heads in agreement. Naruto-kun will be back in the village for this then, as well. A look of determination developed on Hinata's face as she tightened her fists. I'm glad. He will see me accomplish my dream. He is going to see Niji and Ai-san and I unite our clan. Naruto-sensei? Naruto yawned as he opened his eyes and started to stretch slightly. It was still dark over the campsite. His eyes moved over to his side and saw Hanabi and Katsumi, still asleep in their sleeping bags. He then turned his head and noticed that Kanji was sitting up, staring at him. Kanji? Naruto asked, still yawning. What are you doing up? Couldn't sleep, the Yamanaka admitted with a sigh. You know that I got clones surrounding the area, yeah? They'd wake us up if something was approaching us. The Uzumaki informed him. I'm aware, but that's not why I can't sleep. Just... Kanji sighed once again. Look. Can we talk? Just us? The blonde pulled himself up to a sitting position. He yawned one last time before his eyes steeled themselves, becoming more alert and awake. What's up? He asked. Look. I just wanted to talk to you a bit about your speech from earlier, Kanji said as he started to bite his fingernails. It was what I needed to hear, but look, I just need to know, you're being serious about your assessment of us. I wouldn't lie, Naruto said. Why do you think I'll be a great shinobi? Kanji asked. Naruto frowned. I already told you, you have great skill with your clan techniques, you have a good strategic mindset, and you've actually picked up on the lightning-style jutsu I gave you. You're getting stronger from the criticism I gave you that one time after the graduation test I gave you, which also showed me you're willing to get stronger, and you're not stubbornly stuck to your way and all that jazz. Kanji pursed his lips as he closed his eyes and thought. I think you'll be an amazing shinobi, Kanji. Naruto stated again, his frown deepening. This isn't the first time you've suggested this feeling, though. You've always said about how you are destined for mediocrity. Why do you think that? 'Cause I'm not supposed to be, Kanji answered, his lips turning into a frown. I'm a random Yamanaka shinobi. I'm nobody special in the clan. I'm destined to just be a statistic in our village's casualty list one day. Okay, now that's not true. The Jinchuriki's frown turned into a scowl. Who gave you that idea? Kanji was silent for a while. Naruto sat quietly with him. He remained quiet until his student was comfortable enough to speak. After a few seconds, Naruto's scowl faded into, and he gave the fellow blonde a gentle smile as he placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. Kanji stiffened at the action, but it seemed to finally give him a voice. Naruto-sensei, have you ever noticed how many clan family shinobi are out there? How many various shinobi belong to clans like the Nara, Aburame, Akimichi, Inazuka, and Yamanaka? Kanji questioned. Other than me, how many of them do you know outside of just the clan heads and their immediate family? I know plenty of Nara and Hyuga shinobi the Hyuga doesn't count. Thanks to the Byakugan, they're a special case. Even the branch shinobi are meant for greatness. Kanji interrupted, frowning. But you know a few Nara shinobi. Okay. I'm assuming it's cause of that Shikamaru guy that was your teammate, yeah? Well, yeah, but okay then, let me tell you something rather blunt. Us clan family shinobi are meant to be statistics only. Kanji continued to interrupt. Only the clan head's immediate family is actually going to go somewhere. For the rest of us, we're destined to be middle-of-the-road shinobi that will receive the rank of chunin and nothing higher. And usually, we are the ones who are destined to die in war first. Naruto was quiet for a moment as he let go of his shoulder and looked at his student. He studied the rather neutral, tired look on the blonde's face. Kiba has told me that the Lost Shinobi War resulted in lots of Inuzuka clan shinobi dying. And I know that quite a few Nara and Yamanaka shinobi died then as well. Naruto's eyes started to widen as he started to notice the pattern that the boy was talking about. And I don't know many shinobi from the various clans either. But that's still bullshit. That's not. Naruto's widened further as a realization just dawned on his face. So that's why you hate Ino, huh? You're jealous of her being Inoichi's daughter. Hate is a strong word. I don't hate her. Or at least, I try not to hate her. Kanji sighed. But yes, I will admit that I'm jealous of her and all the opportunities that she has that I will never have. I am incredibly jealous. Ino can't control who her father is, Naruto stated sharply, crossing his arms. I'm aware. I understand that it's irrational and all, and that she's a nice girl and she's a good shinobi in her right, but you must understand what I'm talking about. All the coincidences related to all the various clan family shinobi. They aren't coincidences. They're just the way life is, the Yamanaka stated bluntly. In the end, we're just statistics. No one even cares when a random Yamanaka shinobi dies. Naruto's face softened again. You can't actually think that, can you? I do. I watched it happen to my older brother, Kanji admitted. You have a brother? Naruto questioned. Had. The Yamanaka corrected. His name was Yamanaka Fu, and he had bright orange hair that no one else had. I really liked it. I always told him it explained his fiery personality. A small, bitter chuckle escaped his lips. My brother was supposed to be a rising star in the clan and was making tons of headway in the Shinobi Academy. And then, one day, he just vanished. And no one cared. What do you mean? The Uzumaki asked, frowning. He already knew he was not going to like the answer. I don't know. Literally, Fu went to the academy one day and never came back, Kanji answered. Tears were starting to develop in the boy's eyes as he shook his head. He never showed up at the academy that day. We tried to look for him throughout Konoha and we couldn't find him. He literally just vanished. Kanji. Naruto's frown deepened as he placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. I'm sorry, and not a damn person cared. The Yamanaka hissed as he swatted his sensei's hand away. The academy moved on as if it didn't happen. No shinobi seemed to care. Not even our clan head cared too much. When I asked Inoichi, he just frowned, told me that there was nothing we could do about it, and just move on. Kanji's body started to shake slightly. Naruto grabbed for the boy and pulled him into a hug. This time, the Yamanaka did not try and push him away. He, instead, returned the hug. We had to have a funeral for him, but only my parents, the Hokage, Inoichi, and I were there. No one else came. 'Cause no one knew him, so no one cared. Because that's just the way it's meant to be. Kanji sobbed. We're just supposed to be a statistic, that's all. Naruto tightened his hug the boy tighter. Kanji stopped talking and proceeded to just cry quietly against the Jonin's shoulder. It took a minute before he finally stopped crying. When he finished, Naruto let go of the hug. He then looked at his student directly in his still red eyes. I can't say anything about most shinobi, but I can just tell you from my own experience. I see a lot of potential in you as a shinobi. You're not forgettable. You're an amazing shinobi destined for excellence. And I'm going to make sure you become the shinobi you were meant to be, no matter what. Naruto told him, smiling. Naruto-sensei, that's not how things are supposed to be. The Jinchuriki interrupted, shaking his head. The Hyuga clan is supposed to be divided, but right now, my girlfriend and her cousin are in the process of bridging the gap and uniting the clan into one family. And they're going to do it. As you are going to become a great shinobi. Kanji looked downward. He rubbed his eyes, getting rid of any tears that were still in them. I think I asked you this when we first met, but now, I am not going to accept any other answer than the truth. What is your dream? Naruto asked. The Yamanaka was silent for a few seconds. He took in a deep breath before he looked up again, facing his Jonin sensei. I want to join ANBU, or at the very least, be a strong Jonin. Kanji answered. I want to be strong enough to prove that a shinobi like me can become one of the greatest shinobi. I want to become strong enough to make my parents and clan proud, keep everyone in my life safe, and be an inspiration for clan family shinobi like me. Then we're going to make that happen, Naruto stated sharply as he grinned. I'm going to do everything in my power to help you grow stronger so you can surpass your own dreams. When I'm done with you, you'll be the frickin' ANBU commander. A small smile developed on the boy's lips as he shook his head. Tears were, once again, developing in his eyes, but for a seemingly different reason. Naruto-sensei, why do you say such cheesy things? Kanji asked. His smile widened as he tried to wipe away his tears. Okay. I don't believe that it's possible for me to be anything but average. But I'm going to believe that you wouldn't lie to me. I wouldn't sugarcoat my thoughts like this, Naruto stated. The Yamanaka opened his mouth to reply, but he ended up yawning instead. The Uzumaki smirked as he laid back down in his sleeping bag. Now, get some sleep, the Jonin suggested. We're back on the move at sunrise. Yeah? Kanji shrugged his shoulders as he went back to his own bag. When the Yamanaka laid down, he was able to fall asleep almost instantly. 3 days of travel had passed quickly. Before too long, Team 9 had arrived back at the gates of Kanehigakure, their mission complete and returning home. Oh, it feels great to be back home, Katsumi exclaimed. She took in a deep breath as they walked through the village before her smile grew larger. The air just smells so nice right now. Strange realization. Nothing about the air quality has changed since we've been back in Hai no Kuni. Your nose is probably acting up. Kanji spoke as seriously as he possibly could. Despite his tone of voice, he had a large grin on his face. Let me know if you're getting sick, so that way I can make sure to leave before I catch something. Kanji, I swear to dash. The civilian-born shinobi cut herself off as her eyes went to Hanabi, who was eyeing her curiously, before she took in a deep breath and sighed. Shut up. Just shut up. I'm trying to enjoy being back home, okay? I know you all want to go home right away, but we got some business to take care of first with the Hokage, alright? Naruto questioned. The Genin team nodded their heads in agreement as they walked through the streets of Konoha. It only took them a few minutes before they found themselves in the Hokage's office. The conversation was standard, as Naruto talked to Jiraiya about completing the mission. He mentioned briefly the situation with Kankuro and the treason accusations, but nothing more. When the formalities were finished, Naruto dismissed his genin, who quickly left the room, eager to go back home. Naruto was now alone with his godfather. His eyes moved to the man as he pulled out a scroll. Alright, so now that we're alone, let's talk, he said seriously as he placed the scroll on the desk. There's a lot of shit that went down in Suna. Yakushi Kabuto was the one responsible for that grave robbery I mentioned earlier. There's a lot more to it in that report. Jiraiya said nothing as he grabbed the scroll and started scanning its contents. His eyes widened with almost each passing word. By the time he finished, he placed the scroll down on his desk and brought his right hand to his head. Fucking Kabuto. Everything would be so convenient if we had gotten him killed back then. Jiraiya grumbled, shaking his head. We're going to have to strengthen our security even more. There's always the possibility that man could turn up here sometime. It's very likely. Although, he suggested he already has a body from this village. That's something I actually wanted to talk about, Naruto stated, crossing his arms. Jiraiya, what Uzumaki shinobi are buried here in the village? I can only recall 2 shinobi dash. Jiraiya's eyes widened in realization. A memory began to resurface in his head, of a conversation that Hiruzen had with him related to the fallout of the Tsunodo invasion. Oh god! What? Naruto's face dropped as he brought his hands to face. Jiraiya. Please! Don't tell me. He doesn't have my mom's body on him, does he? My mom's body is right where it always has been, right? Please! Naruto. I can be fully honest with you. He does not have your mother's body, Jiraiya answered. Immediately, a sigh of relief escaped Naruto's lips. He doesn't have her. Thank God. Naruto, while I understand you must have been worried about your mother and her corpse, it would have been better if he had Kushina's body, Jiraiya stated sharply as a dark look developed on his face. His right hand gripped onto his desk hard, causing some of the wood to come off. He has Uzumaki Mito's body. He has the corpse of the strongest Uzumaki shinobi, the original Jinchuriki to the Kyubi no Kitsune, and the wife of the Shodai Hokage at his grasp for his research. Immediately, the sinking feeling returned to Naruto's face as he realized the extent of Jiraiya's words. He felt a strong urge to vomit at the thoughts running in his head. Kabuto. I am going to kill you. I am going to fucking kill you, he internally snarled. Yakushi Kabuto smirked as he heard thumping footsteps stepping on gravel. He had been waiting at the meeting point, the same cave that he and Sasori had last met in Kaze no Kuni, for at least a full day and was finally excited to make progress. He waited patiently, his eyes down the path, as a man slowly entered the room. It was a young-looking man with short, messy red hair and gray-brown eyes, wearing the standard Akatsuki robes. The man walked forward directly towards Kabuto. The silver-haired shinobi eyed the man in curiosity. You aren't wearing that large puppet of yours, Sasori-sama? I'm surprised, Kabuto admitted with a smile. He bowed, almost dramatically, towards the former Suna shinobi. It's an honor to see you like this. Do not patronize me, Kabuto, Sasori replied. No longer wearing the puppet, his voice was slightly higher in tone. It conveyed a much more palpable feeling of annoyance. I'm currently working on some modifications to Hiriko, so I'm not wearing him right now. Now let's get this over with. How did your little mission go? Well, let me get the bad news out of the way first, Kabuto said as he rubbed the back of his head. Yura and Makate are dead. Sasori's eyes narrowed. Idiots. I'm also impressed that they died after only one directive since regaining their memories. He sighed slightly before his eyes relaxed. Well, you said that was bad news. I'm assuming you have something positive to say? I do. Kabuto smirked as he pulled out a scroll. The former right hand to Orochimaru set the scroll on the ground and made a hand sign. In a pour of smoke, the body of Pakura appeared on the ground. Sasori's eyes widened as he rushed over to her body. I'm finished with my experimentation. As promised, here's a body for you to turn into a puppet, he stated. Excellent. Excellent! Sasori exclaimed as he ran his hand down her cheek. A gleeful smirk developed on his face. Her body is so well preserved. She'll make an excellent addition to my collection. His eyes then turned back to Kabuto. I've already converted the Kage into a puppet, and he's most formidable. Deidara and I sparred, and I was able to take him by surprise with the puppet. His abilities make him most advantageous. I know Pakura will be just as useful. I am pleased to hear that. Kabuto smiled in response. On the topic of Akatsuki, I wanted to ask you something, Sasori. What exactly are your goals with the organization? They're an ends to a means, he explained simply. I intend on living forever and was simply recruited by the one man who has ever been able to beat me into combat. It was more advantageous for me to aid him in cause than simply forfeit my life. You are referring to Pain, correct? Kabuto questioned. Sasori's eyes narrowed on him. I'd question how you know that name, but I am assuming Orochimaru mentioned him before. Precisely. There's a lot that interests me in him, but the thing I am most interested in is his end goal to create a new world of peace. And I don't like it. Kabuto adjusted his glasses. I'm concerned of the possibility that, in his new world, someone like you or me would be considered a threat to peace. He would certainly not like the idea of immortal beings that could outlive him and potentially create chaos in the political vacuum that would occur after his death. You're claiming to have immorality? Sasori's eyebrow rose. No, not yet at least. But that will come in time, given more research. Kabuto dismissed, a smirk developing on his lips. I noticed that's the first comment you focused on. Not the open concern and threat that I made about your leader. Your statement is valid. I am also concerned about an eventual altercation with Pain. If his plan were to succeed, I would be a sitting duck for him to kill if he ever felt reason to distrust me. However, I am certain that he would have no reason to distrust me. I have been loyal to Akatsuki since joining. The redhead's eyes narrowed on the man in front of him. What exactly are you offering, Kabuto? I discussed a partnership the last time we met. I want to make an end goal sort of established, Kabuto said as he placed a hand of his own on Pakura's body. He quickly sealed it back into the scroll and picked it up. You and I are both similar in our pursuits and passions. I am dedicated to a life of science and research, intending to obtain immortality to continue Orochimaru-sama's research and master all ninjutsu. You are dedicated to art and making your body and your work last forever. All I am suggesting is that you and I look out for each other to make sure we both can live forever and accomplish our goals. A scowl developed on Sasori's lips. I have no intention of betraying Akatsuki. And I have not been trying to get you to betray your organization. In the present moment, I have no conflict with Akatsuki. Kabuto answered. All I'm asking for is for you to look after my back. In exchange, I can provide you with more bodies to convert into puppets. For now, though, please just consider having a separate partnership with me. One that will not conflict with Akatsuki's goals, but will prove all the more beneficial to your real end goal for life. Sasori said nothing as he brought his hand to his chin in thought. He was loyal to Akatsuki. Kabuto's remarks were concerning to him and presented the silver-haired shinobi as a potential threat to the organization. However, he was right. Kabuto's end goal was more aligned with his own. Working with Kabuto, so long as he did not go against Akatsuki, would be beneficial to him. The former Suna shinobi watched Kabuto extend the scroll with Pakura's body towards him. After another second of thought, Sasori reached forward and grabbed the scroll, a smirk on his lips. So long as you're not a threat against Akatsuki, I will work with you, he stated. I promise, I will be no threat. As a matter of fact, I could maybe be an ally to the organization, if they were interested. Kabuto's smirk became malicious. Chapter 67, Hayashi's Gambit. Naruto left the Hokage's office in a bad mood. He hurried out into the streets of Konoha and began to walk forward, his hands in his pocket. He took in a deep breath, mentally trying to calm himself down. Kabuto has Mito's body. I have no clue what he's going to do with it. The Uzumaki clan doesn't necessarily have a bloodline. We do have an inherent talent for Fuinjutsu that people say run through our blood. Can Kabuto actually obtain skill in Fuinjutsu just through Mito's DNA? He wondered. I have to assume he can. Ugh, he needs to be tracked down and killed. I know Masakadoji-san will be pissed when he hears about all of this. Ugh, he groaned, shaking his head. I'll stress about this later. There's nothing I can do about all this right now. With a deep sigh, Naruto tried to push away his thoughts on Kabuto as he continued to walk through Konoha. It took him 10 minutes to arrive at his destination, the Hyuga clan estate. After greeting the Hyuga branch family members at the entrance, he walked on to the estate. At first, the blonde was heading towards the main branch family's building, but he stopped when he saw a figure in his peripheral vision. He turned his head, facing the clan's garden, and saw Hanabi lying down in the grass. He saw Hebihiro was coiled up next to her, almost asleep. A smirk developed on his face as he walked towards her. So the first thing you do when you get back home from a mission is to just lay in the grass? Naruto questioned her. How interesting, I guess. Hanabi immediately sat up in surprise at the voice. The snake uncoiled itself and looked over at Naruto as well. It's not the first thing I did. I said hi to my family and had a good meal, just saying. Hanabi stated, crossing her arms. I'm just resting down now. You had time to say hi to everyone and eat? Jesus, how long was I talking to Ero-sennin? Naruto shook his head before eyeing the snake. Feel good to be back in Konoha? Yes, the snake replied with a smile as he laid his head back down. The grass feels a lot nicer than the coarse sand of Suna. Plus, there's less people here. That's fair. The Jonin nodded his head in understanding. The little snake spoke very little during their time in Suna. He was a rather shy creature, and being surrounded by plenty of unknown shinobi, many of whom that were incredibly strong, must have been intimidating. Well, at least we're back home now. We all can rest easy. Exactly. Hanabi nodded her head in agreement. A playful smile then developed on her lips as she looked at her Jonin-sensei. So, I think I know why you're here. Trying to find my sister? Yup. Naruto replied, rubbing the back of his head. She's in her room, yeah? No. Naruto's eyes widened at the sound of Hinata's voice. I'm right behind you. Before he could say anything, he felt arms surround his chest, pulling him back slightly. A large smile developed on his face as he turned around to see Hinata standing there, with an equally large smile. He quickly returned her hug and kissed her passionately, which she was eager to return. It took a couple of seconds before they broke apart. It's good to see you again, Hinata-chan. It's great to see you too, Naruto-kun. Hinata replied. Alright, you two should go get a room. Hebihiro and I were here first, Hanabi said. A small blush developed on both Jonin's faces as they chuckled in response to her teasing. Naruto was about to say something else, but he then noticed something different about Hinata. The Hyuga usually wore her forehead protector over her neck, but today, she wore it over her forehead. He gave the girl a quizzical look. You're wearing your forehead protector different. He noticed. I haven't seen you ever wear it like that. She said that she was just trying something different when I asked her. Hanabi stated. I did tell you that, Hanabi. However, I must admit I lied. Hinata said sheepishly. The smile seemingly widened on her face as her hands moved to the forehead protector and adjusted it. Now that Naruto-kun's here, though, I can show you what has happened. Huh? Naruto blinked in confusion. What do you mean what has happened? Hinata did not verbally reply to Naruto's question. Instead, she reached to the back of her head and untied the forehead protector. She proceeded to hold onto it with her left hand. Her right hand then moved upwards, holding up her bangs and showing off her forehead for Naruto and Hanabi to see. Both stared at her in surprise. Displayed nicely on her forehead was a blue-colored seal that depicted a closed eye that was enclosed in a fire. Hinata-ne-san, is that? Hanabi was unable to finish her sentence. She simply looked at the seal, her hands placed over her mouth in shock. Yes. It is, she replied, smiling. The seal was finished. Masakato-sen finished the seal yesterday. A large smile developed on Naruto's lips as he looked at it in approval. It's official, then. You're that much closer to your dream, then. It's finally happening. Well, I still got a few more things left to do, Hinata admitted, her smile dropping ever so slightly. Niji and I-san and I still have to dash. I know you all have to do all that political crap with your clan still, but you've got the most important part done already. Naruto interrupted her, grinning. The part you couldn't really control is finished. Now all that's left for you to do is convince your clan. And I know you can do that. I hope. It's what I'm going to try and do, even if it kills me, she replied. You're going to accomplish it, her boyfriend continued to say, still grinning. I'm so happy for you. Come on, let's go celebrate. Before Hinata could even speak, Naruto had grabbed her hand and was already leading her out of the estate. And Naruto-kun! She nearly tripped from his sudden jerking of her. She proceeded to catch herself, however, and followed him at her own natural pace, giggling at his antics. I miss you. And I miss you too, he said cheerfully. Hanabi waved goodbye to the two as they headed out of the estate. When both Jonin were long gone, she proceeded to lay back down in the grass. Her eyes went to the clouds, but her mind was preoccupied. Hanabi? Hebihiro called her name. She didn't immediately recognize that the snake had even said something, at first. So, the new seal is ready. I should probably get marked with it too then, she realized. A confused look etched onto the younger Hyuga's face. So, what's going to happen now, though? Will the elders be okay with all of this? Hanabi was not going to bother her sister right away. She knew that she deserved her moment with Naruto. However, she had a lot of questions for her, Niji, and her father, and she was hoping the answers would not scare her too much. So, how did your students take being outside of the village, Naruto? Shikamaru questioned the blonde. While Naruto and Hinata did want to spend time to themselves, and they did go out to eat alone, Naruto did want to see both Shikamaru and Dosu as well. Therefore, when they finished, the two met up with their other two friends at Dosu's apartment. The apartment was rather neat, clean, and stylish. Dosu styled his living room and kitchen with various antiques that he found, a nice katana from Tetsu no Kuni that allegedly had been owned by a famous samurai, kabuki masks from various villages and countries displayed and labeled nearly on a shelf, and a large bookcase made of finely crafted wood that was filled with books and scrolls, amongst other things. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru were sitting on a couch in the living room while Dosu prepared tea for the group. They seemed to enjoy it. It was their first time being away from Konoha, obviously, so it was a big deal to them. They really enjoyed meeting the Kazekage, Naruto said with a chuckle. I am still surprised to hear that Gaara actually became Kazekage, Hinata noted. I am really proud of him. It was a surprise for me, believe me. But he deserves it. He's gonna do that village proud, the Uzumaki declared as he crossed his arms. And he better damn well believe I'm following his footsteps as we speak. I was about to say. With someone our age already become a Kage, it almost suggests you're slacking. Shikamaru commented as he smirked at Naruto. Better step up your game there, Naruto. You're the last one who should talk to me about slacking. Naruto shot back, smirking as well. At that point, Dosu walked over to the group with a silver plate and 4 teacups. Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru all took a cup, thanking their friend. Dosu then set the plate down, grabbing his cup, and joining the trio on his couch. Naruto's eyes moved to the former Odo shinobi and frowned. Not to dampen the mood, cause I really don't want to think much about the subject, but I do owe it to you to say it. Naruto spoke with a frown. He took a sip of his tea before he continued to speak. Yakushi Kabuto was in Suna. Dosu, who was about to take a sip of the tea, immediately stopped. He set the tea down and looked over at Naruto, with no visible emotion on his face. Oh? Yeah. Naruto nodded his head. Well, complicated the mission, I guess I could say. A frown developed on his face. Apparently he's been busy doing some experiments, acquiring Kekkai Genkai of deceased shinobi by mixing their DNA with his own. Is that even possible? Hinata spoke up, a horrified look developing on her face. I know that there are cases of someone taking the Byakugan, for example, by literally stealing the eyes from my main branch family users, but taking bloodline abilities from the DNA itself? That wasn't some claim he made up. He showed it to me in battle. The Uzumaki admitted, he has that Shikatsumiyaku ability you said that one guy who worked for Orochimaru had. He has Kimimara's dead bone pulse, Dosa closed his eye, as he began to envision the thought. That's so blatantly disrespectful. That's even disrespectful to Orochimaru. I believe that he was simply just going to let Kimimaro die in peace, from what I had heard. For Kabuto to do such experimentations on his dead body is abhorrent. I'm assuming you already told Jiraiya, yes? Shikamaru questioned. Naruto nodded his head. Good. Both he and Gaara can spread word. When info like this spreads, all shinobi villages should be taking extra precaution of guarding burial grounds or even potentially disposing of bodies, period. That would be wise. Dosa nodded his head in agreement. Perhaps you could also spread this news as well. When was the last time you wrote to Kuratsuchi? A little bit ago. I'm awaiting her response. Shikamaru stated, frowning slightly at the thought of his lover. I'll definitely let her know, but I'm hoping that this is something that can be handled well in IWA. That village has its own problems going on right now. Naruto looked at his friend in confusion. Oh? Apparently, the last living Kamizura clan members, descendants of the Shodite Tsuchikage, arrived back in the village after some personal quest or something. And they're not too happy about the alliance between Konoha and IWA. The Nara frowned. Nothing violent is going on or anything, but they're commonly speaking out against the alliance and any support for Konoha, in general. Nothing's happened, but it's creating some bad blood in IWA. IWA doesn't need any shinobi trying to recreate that bad blood between villages. Hinata shook her head. But Inoki-sama is a strong Tsuchikage, and he should be able to fight back. Yeah, I figure. And Kuratsuchi will help. As will Han and the rest of those guys. But it's still troublesome dealing with them. It's all political crap, Shikamaru sighed. IWA will be fine. I know it will. Naruto stated sharply. Just cause some guys returned who can't get over the past doesn't mean anything overall. IWA has changed, and for the better. Everything will be fine there. A small smirk developed on his face as he pumped his fists. Just as we'll be fine with the Kabuto situation. You know, Naruto, you are the single most optimistic person I know. Dosa stated with a chuckle. That's definitely a good thing, though. The positivity is reassuring. Damn right it is. Naruto exclaimed, smiling. Anyway, sorry to derail the mood like that. Let's get back to something else. He took a sip of tea before continuing to speak. Other than Hinata's new seal, did anything interesting happen while I was gone? The four proceeded to share stories of the different event that occurred in the past week while enjoying Dosa's tea. It was a very relaxed conversation for a relaxed environment, something that was long needed, especially for Naruto. Outside factors around the world may have caused the group stress, but just for even a moment, they were able to relax. What? Masakato screamed. Naruto winced as he took in a deep breath, feeling intimidated by the amount of killing intent and pure rage leaking out of Masakato. It reminded him of the first time that he had met the elder Uzumaki back in the temple at Yuzushiogakure. Naruto's eyes then moved towards Hiruzen. The former Hokage's eyes were shut, as he was seemingly in deep thought and even deeper sorrow at the news. From a strictly conflict-avoidant perspective, It might have been wiser to have spoken to Masakato and Hiruzen separately about the incident. However, Naruto knew that he was going to have to talk to both shinobi. He also knew that Masakato, upon learning about Mito's corpse, would have immediately confronted Hiruzen. It made sense to just talk to them both together and allow Masakato to get out his rage immediately. This was Naruto's motivation for inviting Hiruzen over to discuss things with Masakato. Despite it make sense in his mind, Naruto was already regretting the decision. Hiruzen, you couldn't keep her corpse? Isn't she your Shodai's wife? Isn't she the representation of the bond between Konoha and Uzushio? Masakato questioned, eyes narrowing at the man his age. How could you let this happen? This is not a defense. This is just an explanation. Hiruzen spoke softly as he opened his eyes. Kabuto acquired her corpse of the aftermath of the Tsunoto invasion. In the resulting chaos, he was able to slip away with it. It was a moment of weakness he capitalized on. Moment of weakness, my ass. This Kabuto person has the fucking corpse of Uzumaki Mito. He has no right to experiment on it, let alone acquire his DNA. Masakato snarled. How dare you let him accomplish that? How fucking dash, Masakato. Stop. Naruto spoke up. The elder Uzumaki turned his head towards Naruto, his anger changing targets. The younger Uzumaki gulped slightly before shaking his head, frowning. You need to control your anger, Masakato-ji-san. You know that it would have been possible for him to get away with it in the aftermath of the invasion. It's horrible that it happened, but don't just simply yell at the old man because of it. Masakato's glare started to subside. He took in a deep breath and was quiet for roughly a few seconds. Finally, the killing intent across the room started to fade. The man sighed before he was able to finally speak. I'll save my anger then. I'm still pissed. I want this Kabuto's head. I want him dead if it's the last thing I do. Masakato stated sharply. Naruto, you have already spoken with Jiraiya about Kabuto's actions, yes? Hiruzen questioned. The blonde nodded his head. Good. Kabuto should be becoming a higher priority on target in the bingo book. He will be hunted down and killed. Damn right he will. The red-headed shinobi crossed his arms. And I'll be the one to fucking end him. Masakato-san, rest assured, you will have your way with him. The Sandaime Hokage said. I understand your anger. It was under my watch this happened. You're holding back your anger because of Naruto, but I fully understand it, and you do not need to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. This whole incident will be one of my deepest shames, and I hope to right it. The man's eyes narrowed as he began releasing killing intent. Rest assured, Yakushi Kabuto will die. I believe you, Hiruzen. And I'm going to wait impatiently for that day. Masakato sighed, shaking his head. Mito was a good woman. She deserves better than that. That she does. Hiruzen smiled sadly. I remember the day I first met. It was only after Hashirama-sensei had accepted me as his student. I was a stranger in their home, but she treated me as if she had known me her whole life. She was a lovely person. Had the fiery passion that all Uzumaki had, along with a deep love for all people. Masakato noted with a sad smile. I became acquainted with her shortly after Hashirama's death. She would visit Uzushio whenever she had the chance, and she saw me back then, a young man who was finally taking his shinobi career seriously. She gave me a lot of personal advice to improve myself. A slight tear developed in his eyes as he shook his head. She spent a lot of time while she was there, helping me grow stronger and improve my Fuinjutsu. She seemed to know that I was finally taking being a shinobi seriously, and wanted me to improve for my sake. She had other things she could have been doing, should have been doing, instead, but she just chose to help me, cause she knew I needed to help. Naruto was quiet as both Masakato and Hiruzen reflected on Mito's legacy. He listened to the two older men discuss the life and skills of the most exemplary Uzumaki shinobi to this date. Father, you are still awake. Hayashi turned his attention from a scroll he was working on. He noticed that both Hinata and Hanabi were there in the doorway to his office, looking at him. The Hyuga clan had nodded in acknowledgement, which urged the sisters to walk into his office. Both took a seat in the chairs directly in front of his desk. I am surprised to see you two awake still. He noted, still writing. You especially, Hanabi. Don't you have training with Naruto tomorrow? I do. But I'll get enough sleep. Hanabi replied with a slight shrug of her shoulders. Hinata wanted to speak with you though, and I'd like to be here too for it. Very well. Hayashi stopped writing in his scroll and looked up to his eldest daughter. What are you thinking, Hinata? I have an idea I would like you propose. When we convince the Hyuga elders. Hinata spoke. If. Hayashi corrected. I'm trying to find ways to appeal to them. I'm working on this scroll right now to collect my thoughts. I am aware you are. And I personally believe that we will succeed and convince them. Hinata stated with a smile. However, I have an idea about a step to take afterwards. Oh? Hayashi crossed his arms. As you are aware, this is all to unite the branch and main families together. Therefore, I think something must be done as a symbol for this unification. Hinata elaborated. The new seal will definitely pave the way, but it could also just be a sign of correcting the past. There needs to be a way to show them that the future is going to be changed. And I assume you have a suggestion to show the branch family of this unified future? Her father questioned. She nodded her head. This is something I told Hanabi just now, and I'd like you to hear it too. She took a deep breath and before finishing her sentence. I'd like for you to claim Niji as the next heir of the Hyuga clan. Hayashi's eyes widened. He brought his hands together as he looked at his daughter, processing her words fully. I've put some thought into this, Hinata admitted. I actually think the elders will be okay with this, as I think Niji has always had a better reputation in their eyes than I have. Even if they may now give me praise for my strength as a shinobi, I know they still view my personality as not ideal for a Hyuga clan head. They'd be supportive of this act. As would the branch family. It would be a sign that our clan is changing for the better. They would acknowledge that, maybe just as much as the new seal. I see your logic, Hayashi commented. A small, sad smile developed on his lips. You would make an excellent clan head, Hinata. I can see it now more clearly than I ever could have hoped years ago. Are you certain this is what you feel is best? I do. She nodded her head. A smile of her own developed on her face. Besides, I feel as if Niji will be able to handle clan politics better than I can. He'll be an even better clan head. Hayashi then turned to face his second daughter. And what are your thoughts on everything, Hanabi? I'm in support, Hanabi said as she bit her thumb. I just want our clan to have a better relationship with each other. Whether that means Hinata-san or Niji is the clan head doesn't matter. Whatever happens, I just want our clan to be more united. A smile developed on the elder Hyuga's face. He looked upward for a brief moment. Hizashi, can you hear this? Your son, the clan head of the Hyuga clan. Tears started to fall down Hayashi's face. I wish you could see this, Hizashi. This will be official then. Once we have discussed with the elders and get this confirmed, we will make it known. Niji will become the new heir to the Hyuga clan. Hayashi noted. His eyes then moved to his daughters. With that in mind, though, do you two have any personal plans? I simply want to become the best shinobi I can and do whatever I can to help the village and our clan. Hinata said, smiling. I intend on also getting my own genin squad sometime and helping them grow stronger. You should strive higher, Hinata. You have the strength to be an ANBU or the Jonin commander of the village. Don't sell yourself short. Hayashi informed her, smiling. His eyes then moved towards Hanabi. And you, Hanabi? I'm still figuring that out. Hanabi admitted, frowning. Naruto-sensei is helping me develop as a shinobi and I intend on following through with his advice in hopes to develop even further, both as a shinobi and as a person. She tapped her fingers together as she started to look downward slightly. Naruto-sensei actually recommended medical ninjutsu as a field I might interesting, and I intend on looking into it more. Really? Hinata looked at her sister in surprise. He never mentioned that to me. You never mentioned that to me before. Are you interested? Maybe? The younger Hyuga admitted. Her frown started to twist upwards into a smile. I want to at least see. A Hyuga has never been a medical shinobi before. It's not considered a traditional career route. Hayashi noted, bringing his hand to his chin. If you follow through with it though, I expect for you to become one of the best medical shinobi this village has ever seen. Hanabi nodded her head in understanding, giving her father a determined look. Understood. Heh. Hayashi chuckled slightly. You two have grown into such strong women. Your mother would be so proud of you both. Conversation ended shortly afterwards. Hinata and Hanabi bid their father goodnight while he remained in his office, continuing to work on his scroll. Regardless of whatever happens, all three family members felt closer than ever, and that was, at the very least, an important development. The next day came rather quickly for the members of Team 9. The group arrived at Training Ground 9 early in the morning, ready to train as hard as possible. Naruto worked his students hard, with an initial rough warm-up exercise, doubling the number of sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, and laps around the training ground that he normally had them do. Upon completion, he introduced his genin to water walking. While all three initially struggled with it, after an hour and 20 minutes of straight practice, they were starting to get the handle of it. Once they finished, he moved on to other chakra exercises. 2 hours had passed and Naruto's genin were completely exhausted in ways they had never been before. Despite that, though, they seemed pleased with themselves and eager to continue. After giving them another 5 minutes to rest, Naruto created 2 clones. Kanji and Hanabi both went the 2 clones while the original Naruto remained with Katsumi. Okay, so for private training today, what did you want to work on? Katsumi questioned excitedly. I'm ready for anything. It's about time we tried doing some kenjutsu training. You already said you wanted to practice with it, so let's get started. Naruto suggested. Gotcha. The civilian-born Kunoichi stated as she reached for her wooden sword. Naruto shook his head, which caused her to stop reaching for it. She looked at him in confusion. Huh? What's up? I think I said that you really shouldn't be using a wooden sword, especially now that you're a shinobi. That's not going to do you much good in a fight. You'll need something a bit more practical, Naruto explained as he reached into his pocket. Before Katsumi could question him, the Jonin pulled out a scroll and tossed it to her. After she caught it, the scroll unsealed itself. Katsumi's eyes proceeded to widen. After the resulting smoke from the seal faded away, she noticed she was now holding onto a nice-looking steel sword. The hilt was colored gold and had the Konoha leaf symbol on the grip. There was also 2 small dark green-colored gems on the crossguards. Oh my god! Katsumi mumbled to herself as she ran her hand over the blade. While she was being careful not to cut herself, she could tell that the sword was rather sharp. Remember my cousin Masamune? The one who was involved with your graduation exam? Well, he's a blacksmith. And before we left to Suna, I requested this from him, Naruto said with a smirk. He's kinda a stylish guy, so I had to get him to make something practical instead. I think the sword works well. Without verbally replying, Katsumi put her hands on the sword's grip. She then swung the sword. She was surprised at how easy it was to swing it. It's kinda light, if I recall correctly. It's a pretty good practice sword. There's probably sharper out there, but it'll help you attack quick and I think could be a good place to start learning, the Uzumaki noted. So? Thoughts? Katsumi continued to say nothing. She turned her attention to Naruto. Tears began to roll down her eyes as she looked at him with the brightest, widest smile he had ever seen on her face. Naruto-sensei, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Katsumi told him. Her hand twitched, as if she was going to rub her eyes and wipe away her tears, but she resisted. In that moment, it looked as if she was never going to let go of her grip on the sword. Don't thank me. Just consider it as a task from me to you to get better. The blonde rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I just want you to get stronger, you know? I know. But you're the first person to ever really believe that I can grow stronger and be a great shinobi. No one has ever told me things like you have, she stated. Her grip on her sword tightened as the civilian-born shinobi looked at him with even more determination. And I'm ready to do whatever it takes to prove you right. So, let's get right into training. Naruto was quiet for a moment as he looked at his student. He shook his head, chuckling slightly. She reminds me a ton like me. Maybe she'd be me if I never had met Hinata and Shikamaru, and the person I met that really cared about my development was Anko-sensei. Well, then let's get right into it, Naruto declared. Immediately, he pulled out another scroll and proceeded to unseal a basic-looking sword. He gripped it tightly. So, I'm not a kenjutsu specialist at all, but I did research on the basics and stuff. Let's begin practice. We're going to start with proper swinging and then we'll work our way from there. Okay? Got it, his student exclaimed. Lightning style, spiderweb. Kanji read the name of the scroll that Naruto's clan had given him with intrigue. Kanji, you're a strategist, so I wanted to give you a jutsu that you could find useful for your fighting style, Naruto's clone stated. This jutsu, like its weird name suggests, creates an electrical surge throughout the ground that forms a spiderweb pattern that automatically electrocutes anything it comes into contact with, other than you, of course. It lasts for however long you wish for it to, and you aren't rooted in place when using it either. I presume this can help me position myself on a battlefield better, the Yamanaka noted. Help me lock off certain areas of the battlefield from my opponent, and make it easier for me to corner them and make it harder for them to reach me. Yup. The clone nodded its head. Kanji smirked as he began to unravel the scroll. Alright then, let's take a look at how to use the jutsu. Then I'll decide whether or not it's worth using. There was a pregnant pause for a moment. Kanji looked at the clone with a shit-eating grin on his face. The clone was silent for a moment before it sighed, shaking its head. Look, Kanji, you know the original me likes your puns. But I have to say, that one was kinda pushing it. It stated sharply. Meh. Kanji frowned. He shook his head before focusing his attention back to the scroll. In all seriousness, let's begin this. I'd be really curious to learn this jutsu and make it work. Alright, Naruto-sensei, let's get back to reviewing medical ninjutsu. Hanabi declared passionately to the clone. Whoa, aren't you excited? The clone said with a chuckle. You always just seemed interested, now you seem passionate about it. For the briefest of seconds, a pink blush developed on Hanabi's face at having her excitement called out. It faded away, however, as she looked at her Jonin-sensei with determination. She pumped her fists together. I spent a lot of time studying the scrolls last night, and I think I'm ready to start trying to heal something, she stated. She did. She told me about it all this morning. Hebihiro commented. Okay. I gotcha. Naruto's clone stated with a chuckle. If I knew you were ready to practice genuine healing, I would have had the original be with you, cause as a clone, I can't really injure myself and give you something to practice with. And personally speaking, I'd rather you not injure yourself or Hebihiro just for practice. It then started to rub his head in confusion. Then again, I think you're supposed to practice with small animals like fish or birds before you work your way up to healing humans anyway. So I guess tomorrow, I'll start working on getting stuff ready for it. Oh. Gotcha. Hanabi noted with a slight frown. Do you have any ideas of something we could work on then, instead? Well, I had an idea for a jutsu I know how to use. Your other teammates know how to use elemental ninjutsu related to their elements, and I think it's about time you learned something yourself. The clone replied as it tossed Hanabi a scroll. Hanabi grabbed the scroll and proceeded to read the title. Earth-style, rock gun. It's a fairly basic jutsu. One of the easier Earth-style jutsu to practice with. And I think it can give you at least some jutsu foundation when you must fight from a little bit of distance, you know? Naruto's clone suggested. So, we'll work on this today. And we'll get you working on your medical ninjutsu ASAP as well. That good? Yes. Hanabi nodded her head as she opened the scroll. So, let's get started. When training completed, and after handling a few basic missions from the Hokage, Team 9 disbanded for the day. Upon finishing everything up, Naruto proceeded to meet up with Hinata. The two shinobi proceeded to walk through the village, with seemingly no destination in mind. They were incredibly focused today in their training. I have never seen them like that before, Naruto exclaimed. It was actually kinda cool. They keep up this level and I think they might become Chunin level shinobi in about a month tops. That's good to hear, Hinata said, smiling. I'm certain that it's because of the mission in Suna though. After our first C-rank mission was when we started to take our training more seriously. I'm certain it's the same for them. Yeah, probably. I'm just impressed, I guess. Kanji and Hanabi already learned the jutsu I wanted them to practice in our brief training sessions, and Katsumi seemed to learn the basics of kenjutsu in no time. Pretty soon, she's gonna know more than what I can teach her. He proceeded to rub the back of his head, chuckling. I'm probably gonna have to ask for lessons for her maybe. Might also see if I can get Shikamaru to work with Hanabi. For her medical ninjutsu? Hinata questioned. You didn't tell me you were going to have her work on that, by the way? I didn't? Whoops. Naruto smiled at his girlfriend sheepishly. That wasn't meant to be a secret or anything, I just forgot, I guess. Hanabi just seemed like she didn't know what she wanted to do, so I thought I'd introduce her to something that she probably had never thought about before and seeing if she'd be interested. Believe me, she seemed interested when we talked last night, the Hyuga said. I hope she follows through and is interested though, I'd like for Hanabi to have an interest like that. I know she'd be breaking with tradition in your clan, but man, fuck your traditions. Uzumaki replied. Hinata giggled in response. That has been a motto of mine for a while now. Oh? That phrase specifically. Didn't know you liked to swear that much, then. Naruto replied, snickering. Best hope I don't tell your sister. His girlfriend quickly shook her head, still giggling. Please don't. She was about to say something else, but both she and Naruto were stopped as a figure appeared directly in front of them, a Hyuga clan shinobi. Hinata-sama, I have been looking for you. The man quickly stated. Your father has requested your presence? Hinata tilted her head in confusion. Do you know what for, Ko? Not the specifics, but he arranged a meeting with the clan elders and requires both yours and Niji's presence. The man Ko answered. Huh? She nearly choked in response. Already? Wasn't he still working on his speech? He's ready! Is that for what I think it is? Naruto spoke up, a smirk on his face. His hand went to Hinata's shoulder, giving it an affectionate squeeze. You'll do great, Hinata. Believe in yourself and your father and cousin. Hinata was quiet for a second before she turned back to Naruto, smiling. She nodded her head in agreement. Here's hoping. With a quick hug and kiss goodbye, Hinata left, following Ko towards the Hyuga clan estate. Her boyfriend waved to her as she left. Upon arriving at the estate, Hinata was directed to the Hyuga clan's meeting room. The room itself was rather bare. The room was made with a green-colored wood and sliding doors made of similar-colored wind. No decoration or furniture was placed in the room. The only things of note were the floor mats that were scattered neatly. 10 mats were placed on the left side of the room, 2 mats was placed on the right side, and a singular mat was placed directly in the center of the room. As she walked in, Hinata noticed that she was the last one to arrive. Her father and cousin were already sitting on their respective mats, the singular one in the center and one of the 2 mats to the right, respectively. The left side was all filled with 10 Hyuga clan elders. At the center was Hyuga Yashikane, whose eyes were watching her intently as she entered the room. My apologies for my tardiness. Hinata bowed her head as she quickly took a seat on the mat next to Niji. There is nothing to apologize for. We were unaware that this meeting was occurring. One of the clan elders commented as he looked at Hayashi. Well? Your daughter is here. Can we begin this? Of course, Hayashi said. He reached into the pocket of his robe and quickly pulled out a scroll. He set the scroll down in front of him. I would like for us to discuss our clan's infamous caged bird seal. In what regard? Another elder spoke up, her eyes narrowing. I would like to discuss its necessity. Hayashi continued. The seal has been in our family's tradition for centuries as the means to preserve the Byakugan within our bloodline, preventing assailants from stealing the power of our dojutsu. Word has spread recently of a man that has been going around stealing Kekkai Genkai from other villages. Yashikane spoke up, a scowl on his face. Our clan's policy is pertinent. A Byakugan will surely never develop in that fiend's collection of bloodlines. The seal is indeed necessary to help us keep the Byakugan from falling into the wrong hands, but that's not its only effect. It helps divide our clan into 2 separate families. The clan had stated. This again? A clan elder questioned, looking as if he was about to yawn. Hayashi-san, we have discussed this. The only division in our family is a practical one. The main family helps run the clan while the branch family performs missions and earns the clan its reputation. It allows for 2 separate entities to exist that can focus on one aspect of our clan and help the overall image of our clan grow brighter. That may be true, but the seal also serves to control the branch family. Hinata spoke up before her father could. Why else would the side effects to their brain be placed within the seal? It's the nature of the seal itself. It was designed that way and its tradition. It's just a side effect of an effective seal. The same elder replied, shrugging his shoulders. It just so happens to also be a useful tool to rein in any rebellious branch family shinobi. Niji's hand went to his mat instinctively and squeezed it. He closed his eyes, making sure to bite his tongue. That may be, but I do personally believe that those additions serve as simply a way to create animosity between the families. Hinata continued to speak, frowning. And I agree with my daughter. Hayashi spoke up. I also think it's impractical. After all, main branch family members have their Byakugan unsealed, and if we were to die, someone could steal the Byakugan. As Hinata has once said, there's a man in Kirigakure that acquired a Byakugan from killing a main branch Hyuga. Hayashi, quit beating around the bush. Yashikin spoke up, crossing his arms. What are you getting at? Are you suggesting that all main branch shinobi be marked as well? In a manner of speaking, yes. Hayashi replied as he opened the scroll, revealing Masakato's design. I would like to propose a new seal to be implemented. Excuse me? One elder nearly gasped. New seal? Another exclaimed. That's... Hayashi, what are you thinking? A third elder nearly hissed. 9 of the 10 Hyuga elders began to quickly discuss amongst themselves the mere idea of a new seal. The 10th elder, Yashikane, merely closed his eyes. A scowl developed on his face as he shook his head. What Hayashi-sama is thinking is to unite the clan. Niji spoke up, silencing the bickering of the elders. He wants the clan to move forward together as one and work together in unity, as one family. As such, this new seal accomplishes the same goal as the first, helping keep the Byakugan out of the clutches of enemy shinobi, without causing division in our family. Yashikane quickly lifted his right hand, making a hand sign. Hayashi and Hinata both flinched initially at the action, but Niji had no reaction. He stayed sitting, nothing occurring. Yashikane quickly lowered his hand. You have this new seal already. Yashikane noted. Niji nodded his head as he untied his forehead protector, revealing the new seal. Hinata quickly untied her forehead protector as well. As do I, Hinata added. As should all Hyuga shinobi. The elders were silent as they stared at both Hinata and Niji. Yashikane's eyes narrowed on the two as he proceeded to shake his head. And are you certain that this seal will work beyond death? That the seal will keep the Byakugan sealed after death? He questioned. If you wish to see if it does, you can strike me down now and see if this new seal is effective. Niji offered. And Niji and I-san? Hinata turned her head towards the man. Both the branch family Hyuga and the former clan head locked eyes with each other. Both stared deep into each other's very being as silence filled the room. A few seconds passed by before Hayashi interrupted the silence as he wrapped up the scroll. That will not be necessary, Niji. The seal is the work of Uzumaki Masakato, the Sandai Musukage and arguably the most prolific seal master in the elemental nations. There is no doubt that the seal will work, Hayashi said. Uzumaki Masakato, huh? An elder noted the name. The seal must work then. But is it worth it to switch? Another commented. It's going against tradition. That seal has been passed down for centuries. But if a better seal is designed, should we not switch? The elders again began discussing amongst themselves. Yashikane, however, did not participate in their discussion. The former clan head of the clan stood up from his mat and looked down on his son, and then towards his grandchildren. He proceeded to shake his head. Regardless of noble intentions, this clan goes against the very traditions of the clan. You can't simply change our customs like this, Hayashi, he stated. This seal is our clan's tradition. This isn't a mere change. It's a correction, Hinata said sharply. A correction, you say? Yashikane's eyes narrowed on the girl. What a bold statement to make. You've always been a rebellious girl, haven't you? Someone who seems to reject the very nature of what it means to be a Hyuga. Someone like you is not fit to be in the main branch, let alone the clan head. Regardless of your opinion, Hinata-sama is in line to become the next clan head. Niji spoke up, proceeding to stand up as well. You are forgetting that, while the clan head has authority, it is the role of the elders of a clan to make sure that the clan head does not do anything irrational or act in a manner that goes against the clan's best interests. Yashikane continued. Regardless of whether you think it is in the clan's best interest to stay divided, and whether you like it or not, Hinata-sama and I are the examples of the next generation of the Hyuga clan are like. And we can prove to you that it is indeed a bright future. Oh? Yashikane tilted his head. Would you care to demonstrate this? We would be honored to, Hinata stated as she got up, standing side by side her cousin. What would you recommend? I'd like to see you demonstrate that in combat, the Hyuga elder stated. All eyes moved towards the man. The other Hyuga clan elders were staring at the man in surprise while Hayashi, Niji, and Hinata were looking at him with narrowed eyes. What are you suggesting, Yashikane-sama? One of the elders suggested. I wish to see if this future is strong enough. Yes. That's it, that's what shall happen. The former Hyuga clan leader crossed his arms as his eyes gazed upon his grandchildren. You want our support and approval of this new seal, yes? Then earn it. Tomorrow, I wish to spar with you both. 2 against 1? Hinata questioned. Regardless of anything, that puts you at a disadvantage. I will have an accomplice that will fight with me, a shinobi I know that can fight at a high level. Yashikane stated, crossing his arms. You two wish to present yourselves as the future of the Hyuga clan? Then I demand you to prove it to me. Incapacitate me and my aide tomorrow, and I will give my full support towards this new seal. I also believe that the other elders will back up my support if your demonstration is satisfactory, yes? The other clan elders seemed taken aback by the former clan head's statement. They were silent for a moment before they all nodded their heads. We will follow Yashikane-sama's lead. If you can earn his support, we will support the new seal as well. One elder spoke collectively for the rest. This is fine. I accept. Hinata stated. As do I. Niji nodded his head in agreement. Then it's official. Hayashi spoke as he stood up. Tomorrow, I'll make arrangements in the clan dojo for a spar. No need. I'll make the arrangements. Yashikane stated sharply. I'm certain that I can get the space for the Chunin exam finals open for tomorrow. His son looked at the man in surprise. You wish for an arena that large? For just a spar? I don't wish for your daughter and nephew to treat this as a spar. I want to see them fight their hardest for their seal. I want to see this passion that makes them feel as if their path is the correct path for our clan's future. The elder stated sharply. His eyes then moved towards his grandchildren. I am an immovable wall. I have my vision of the Hyuga clan and I refuse to back down on it. If you wish to get me change my mind, then physically force me to. Hinata's eyes narrowed into a glare. Then we will. Hyuga Yashikane left the Hyuga clan estate roughly an hour after midnight and proceeded to walk towards Konoha's market district. It had been a fairly easy task to rent the Chunin exam stadium. It was not being used and Jiraiya was very open to the clan using it for a moment. The elder had only one last preparation to make for the fight the next morning. Yashikane moved through the empty, moonlit streets until he reached a Western-style restaurant that was closed for business. Despite the sign on the door, the Hyuga proceeded to place his hand on the door and channeled his chakra. After a few seconds, a clicking noise could be heard. He then reached for the door and walked right in. Inside the empty restaurant, sitting at a table, was a lone figure, a rather frail, elderly man. The man wore a white shirt with a black robe over it that went down past his feet. He had bandages over his forehead, just underneath his spiky black hair, that also covered his right eye. The man also used a cane, seemingly to help himself stand. I hope I haven't kept you waiting here for long, Danzo. Yashikane said, giving a polite bow to the man. I have not. Danzo replied, shaking his head. I am surprised you wish to speak to me so suddenly. What is that you request, Yashikane? You don't need to play games with me. Quick, feigning ignorance. The Hyuga elder scowled. I know you have at least 1 or 2 rude agents within my clan, as disgusting as that feels. I know you know exactly what I am talking about. Has word spread within your clan about what is occurring tomorrow? Interesting. Danzo mumbled as he started to move closer to Yashikane. No. As far as I'm aware, only those in that meeting and a few main branch family members. But I know you. I know that information escapes your grasp, if it exists. He responded. Interesting. The crippled man noted. Yes, I do know about the battle you are going to have with Hayashi's daughter and nephew. Now, why did you call me here to talk about that? I have a request. Yashikane sighed, as if he was swallowing down bile. I wish to borrow a singular root agent to fight alongside me in my fight against Hinata and Niji. Danzo was quiet for a few seconds. Yashikane was about to speak again when he heard a very light, foreign sound, the sound of Danzo's laughter. Yashikane, you are openly disgusted with how I run Root, but not enough that you feel above asking to borrow one of my agents for a personal conflict. I do not believe I have ever met someone as hypocritical as you. The man noted. I resent that I am asking you. Yashikane admitted, gritting his teeth. However, I know how sympathetic the branch family's plight is and how most shinobi of the village will not ally with me in a fight. Another main branch family may, but I need someone strong enough to fight at a higher level. I know that your agent will not care about any morality, they will simply follow the orders. It hurts my pride, but I am more concerned with the effects of a new seal that I am willing to approach you. And why exactly should I feel this is necessary? I have no stake in your clan politics. Danzo noted. In addition, It would be to Konoha's benefit if all main branch members were marked with a new seal, to ensure that no enemies of Konoha could ever obtain the Byakugan. Danzo, you are a traditional man. You must understand the threat of this change to the Hyuga clan can bring. The Hyuga elder said, crossing his arms. I don't trust equalizing the relationship between the branch and main families. I am painfully aware of the hostilities between the families. Removing the main branch's control on the branch family opens the possibility of an open rebellion and coup against the main household. I know that many branch family members would be open to such a rebellion. He closed his eyes. I'll be a hypocrite. I'll be the bad guy. But I refuse to let this possibility happen. I may not be the clan head anymore, but as an elder, I refuse to watch my clan fall apart. Danzo closed his eye in thought. He remained still for a moment as Yashikane stood still, watching him. Nearly a whole minute passed before Danzo opened his eye. He nodded his head as he slammed his cane onto the ground. As if on cue, a shinobi appeared in the room wearing an ANBU mask, bowing to Danzo. Sai, this is Hyuga Yashikane. He has a mission for you. The leader of Root stated. You will be participating in a fight alongside this man against 2 other Hyuga shinobi. I expect you to fight with your full extent of his abilities. You will follow his orders as if they were my own in relation to this battle. Understood? Understood, Danzo-sama. The Root agent, Sai, responded back. With this, I'll have all the assistance I need. Tomorrow will be a fruitful day. Yashikane sighed in relief. His fists tightened as he turned his head back towards the entrance to the restaurant. I recognize your good intentions, Hayashi, but I refuse to let our clan potentially fight. I will resist this change, even if I have to beat it into my grandchildren for you all to understand it.